Welcome back to another episode of the Family Album. I'm your host, AJ Tenari.
And I'm Matt Glass.
Last week was our regular episode, season finale, where we discussed Pink Floyd's The Wall and Jonas Brothers' Lines, Vines, and Trying Times.
Two albums that were on the precipice of the band's breakup.
That's, honestly, that's really accurate. So another surprising theme that we can add to the list.
A nice way to cap off the good albums and the bad albums of this season.
And speaking of bad albums, we do have quite the guest episode for you. Those who have been around since season 1 know that the last guest episode of the season, we bring on the originators of the Family Album podcast, Album Tonight, to bring on a theme for their album. So please welcome back Ben Mascioli and Evan Vandenbrul.
Hi. It's been a year since I've seen either.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
crazy.
I know,
Yeah.
it's
weird.
wild.
It's always nice to get back together. Every
Yeah.
year.
What do you think of the new studio, the new bunker?
It's
Really
I,
nice.
I feel pretty safe, I must say.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone actually found you guys. You guys have been down
We've
here.
had
for
like
while.
a goblin infestation.
Okay.
So there are
Yeah.
some like goblins. I think there were gnomes at one point too.
There were probably some gnomes. There was some celebrity. I forget who it was.
They like
it
to-
was Bjorn of ABBA.
Yes.
Yeah.
They like to bump into our microphones. a
Oh,
lot.
I see.
Yeah, that's if you hear a mic bump, that is a goblin. Just be aware of that.
One time they were playing Smash Melee.
They were doing that. It was fucking sight to behold.
I do want to give my condolences on Kyle. I've been thinking about him recently, and I thought I'd bring that up real
Listen,
quick.
For those who don't know, Kyle was our intern who unfortunately perished. Was our don't remind me. Who unfortunately perished at the end of season 1.
yeah, grief takes on many forms, and I'm happy to say that I feel like I'm starting to get a sense of levity with
I
his
agree.
passing.
Yeah. But speaking of levity, guys, what's your themes for the albums this week?
Well, this theme was a
doozy.
It was a doozy.
Yeah.
I like the way you phrased it. What was your phrasing of it?
It's bad album, or it's the worst album, or like
Objectively bad
albums by critically acclaimed artists.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what albums did you guys bring on this week?
I brought on Dark Side of the Moon Redux by Roger Waters.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought on Suicide Silence's self-titled album.
Yes, quite a mixed bag in both regards. Also, Evan's album, continuing our theme of Pink Floyd this season, though probably in the worst way possible. Though Nostalgia Critic is up there.
I would say Nostalgia Critic was worse.
Here's
in my opinion.
Right. But you can dismiss the Nostalgia Critic. Like, he didn't have anything to do with the
Exactly.
original.
That's what I think. Yep.
There is...
Literally wrote that in my notes.
We'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there.
Yes, we will, unfortunately.
I know we usually flip a coin when they're here. We're
right,
starting
we
with
do.
Suicide Silence first.
Okay.
That's it. I am
think
totally
that's
for
apt.
that.
Yes.
I figured that
I
was going to
agree.
happen.
I think I need to get this out.
Cleanse your
man.
palate.
This is the angriest listening experience I think I've ever had in my entire life.
All right.
Okay.
Well, with that, Ben, would you like to give us a little bit of history about Suicide Silence by Suicide Silence?
Yes, and this time I actually wrote a history out.
Just look at that.
I'm growing. I'm evolving.
Wow.
So, coming out swinging from Riverside, California, Suicide Silence defined the deathcore genre for many other bands and fans for the music. With albums like The Cleansing, No Time to Bleed, and The Black Crown, they solidified their stance as legends in the scene, paving the way for future deathcore bands to follow. The band became big during the MySpace era, having live footage of them float around the internet, and a demo titled Family Guy Demo being released due to its heavy use of a Family Guy sample used during their live shows and getting notoriety from these performances. It's actually pretty wild.
That's really funny.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
I got to show you guys the clips.
I'm good.
I see enough of them.
The band would go on to self-finance their national tours, even going international when presented with the opportunity, which then led the band to be signed to Century Media Records and went on to release 3 of the most defining deathcore albums of all time. Unfortunately, on November 1st, 2012, iconic vocalist Mitch Lucker passed away due to a motorcycle accident. Picking up the pieces to move forward, the band recruited All Shall Perish vocalist Eddie Hermida and released the following album, You Can't Stop Me, which was the title of Mitch Lucker's final demo with the group, making its way onto the final album. The band went on to write their self-titled album, Suicide Silence, after this album, which was met with a mixed bag of criticism. Being a big departure from their typical deathcore sound, the band dove into more of a nu metal sound from the 90s, with even hints of thrash metal. The band's lineup at this time consisted of Eddie Hermida on vocals, Mark Halem, and Chris Garza on guitars, Dan Kenny on bass, and Alex Lopez on drums.
I did not know that their original vocalist died.
Yeah,
That's unfortunate.
so Mitch Lucker, to give you guys perspective,
Yeah.
was between the years 2006 and 2012 2012, I would say, like right before his passing. One of the most up and rising vocalists in metal. Like you looked, just because he was aesthetically, he stood out because he had neck tattoos. He had full sleeve, like his whole body from his neck down was tattooed.
Gotcha.
So it was just aesthetically, you knew it was him. And he just had like one of the greatest vocal performances of any metal band at that time, especially in the deathcore scene. So yeah, his passing really put a mute point in deathcore because there was a bit of a lull, but then it kind of picked back up, and now it's kind of on the rise again of being another big metal genre.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But this album did not contribute to that.
This album, Mitch Lucker is not on, which I have thoughts that I'll save to the end about that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
you
with
just want
that
to hop
said,
right into it?
Let's just yes.
Did the new singer write the lyrics?
Who wrote the lyrics is
Yeah.
the real question.
I can confirm Eddie did write the lyrics for this whole
Okay.
album.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then without further ado, shall we hop right into this first track?
Doris.
Oh boy, what a hell of an intro.
Yeah. Can I
Yes.
just give my personal experience with this? Because I think this
Absolutely.
is
History.
Please.
Evan Stern.
Yeah.
I need to hear all
It
of
doesn't
y'all's
roll off
personal
the tongue.
experience with this.
Yeah.
All right. So Ben and I have been friends for a long time at this point. And when this album came out, it got dunked on. Not just the album itself. When this got released as a single,
This was the first single
Yeah.
of
This
the
was it.
album.
Gotcha.
it got dunked on. And so Ben shows me this video. You might be able to remember the guy who made it.
Well, there were a couple videos. One was Jared Dines, who did like a reaction video. That was pretty funny. But I thought the funnier one was the singer from Tala, Justin Bonnet.
Oh, shit.
He
Okay.
did a reaction video, and I was crying laughing. It's I will send you guys a link to it afterwards. It's very funny.
I'll put it in the description
Bet.
too.
So it was the other one because I'm familiar with Tala. It definitely wasn't the Justin one. It was the
The Jared Dines one, which we can also link in the description as well.
right. And Ben showed it to me. And at the time, like most of the metal I had listened to was like 70s, 80s, maybe early 90s. So this sort of thing, not much experience.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to like it regardless. In the video, they were like dunking on the clean vocals, and I sort of didn't get it. I was like, well, I don't know. I like clean vocals more than I like screaming. And years pass. And I heard a lot more deathcore in the next like 5 years than I would have expected. So now I have like some baseline of what this is supposed to sound like. And we're
Yeah.
coming up with the idea for this episode. And Ben's like, oh, we should do Suicide Silence self-titled. It's like, all right, that's a good pick. But in my head, I was still expecting that when I listened to it, I'd be like, you know what? It's
not too
clean
bad.
vocals.
just
like
different.
This is really what I prefer. And there was one night where I just felt like listening to something loud. I was like, great. I'll
This
take
is
the
a good
first
album.
step in here.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, first, let me listen to something with Mitch on it, like the stuff people
Yeah.
really like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good call, by
I
the way.
also did.
That's what I did as well.
And I was shocked at how much I liked it. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely shocked. It was
Genuinely too.
really good. Like, I completely surprised me there. And then I was like, oh no. And I put on Doris.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah, it's terrible.
This is
it's
this
awful.
is one of the like most calloused openers to an album I've ever heard.
And not in
It's
an
crazy.
intentional and like purposeful way for the genre. Like right from the get-go, the vocals and the fucking production.
Oh my God.
Nosedive.
So that's
Fucking
that was my
nosedive.
first note about this album is when it starts instrumentally it's
not bad.
promising.
Yeah.
It's I'm not going to say it's not good either, or I'm
Yeah.
not going to say it's not bad. I'm not going to say it's not good, but it was promising. There was like okay, this is a cool riff. But the first thing I notice is, man, the production.
It's whack,
It's
man.
exactly
very
what I
weird.
thought, too.
Like specifically this song, I was like, why is his vocals almost just sitting on top of
Yes.
everything? And why are the drum toms so boxy and flat sounding? It was such a weird vibe because when it comes to deathcore, the big thing is you scoop everything. Like you scoop the shit out of the mids and you make the snare really pingy. You make the tom sound very boomy. The guitars chuggy. It just was, and the vocals just like,
Screaming.
yeah. Like, but it all works typically. it wasn't working
No.
at all. And I'm just going to lay that out for the whole album because that was a note in every song.
Yeah,
of
the
mine.
production
So I will
sucks.
just say the production on this
Yeah.
album is garbage.
Which is weird because after I listened to this a couple times, I was like, okay, who produced this? He
It's
produced
Ross Robinson.
Yeah, he
Yep.
produced the first couple Slipknot records. He
Oh,
produced
shit.
the first couple Korn records.
So he has
Interesting.
experience, in other words.
Yeah, and also like outside of just sort of this style of metal, which I mean, we can get into it. This is clearly going for a new metal
metal
thing.
sound, yeah.
And they
Right.
got a guy who
specialized
specialized
in
that.
the genre.
But then
Right. So crazy.
he's also like I've heard him produce other stuff well that's not even within that range. Like he produced a couple Touche Amore records, and
Yeah.
that's like post-hardcore. That's
Yep.
sort of a different range of what you want to go for there. That was the most surprising thing from this entire album. Just like what
just what happened.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I don't know. I really don't, because Ross Robinson's one of those guys. Well, he's one of those guys where you don't really hear from him much anymore. So low key, it was surprising when I figured out he produced this album, because he was huge in the 90s and early 2000s, but you kind
Dropped
of
off.
didn't really hear from him after that.
That Touche Amore record got some good reviews, so
Yeah. It's so that's a little weird, but
This is like kind of in the similar vein as like Danger Mouse producing fucking.
It's Songs of Innocence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's just like, what? Well, I guess this is more fitting, I guess, in terms of like producer and artist, but
Yes.
it's just like disappointing, I see. is what
Given the
you're going
track
for.
record, this is like disappointing, is what I'm trying to go
Yeah.
for.
but like without his list of albums in front of me, like Danger Mouse kind of did have a drop off point. Like there is a point that
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, just like
Mhm.
it's not the same anymore. And you're gonna have to remind me of his name,
Ross Robinson.
Ross Robinson. You look at his
Track record.
and it's banger after banger.
It's good before and it's good after. So what happened?
If there's
here?
just one like outlier.
Just fucking
Yeah.
Bermuda Triangle of discography right here.
Which tells you that it's probably a lot of what the band wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that wouldn't surprise me for
I mean,
a
like,
handful of
yeah,
reasons.
they're trying to like
but
adapt at this point.
Can you guys tag yourselves as my little, my trash, and my lover?
Yep. Who are we?
I'm gonna be honest. Like I only noticed the.
I tried not paying attention to the lyrics.
Dude, they're crazy.
I tried
Holy
not,
shit.
but some songs
couldn't.
made it very
Oh
difficult.
my God.
To where it was just in your
We'll get
face.
into it.
I'm afraid. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
take care of it because that's kind of my hyperfixation with this album. If
Yeah.
I'm being honest, sorry.
Yeah.
in
No,
advance.
don't be sorry. It was I'm
Yes.
not brave enough to look on Genius and see what the full lyrics.
That's
of
what we're
this
here
I
for.
did the entire time because
Yeah,
I'm trying to be better
I
at looking at
couldn't.
lyrics generally. So I was doing my best, and I know with this one, like a lot of lyrics in metal overall, they kind of do whatever the fuck they want. But like with this, I was like, this just doesn't even fit. I feel like.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's just out of place. It's uncomfortable to listen to. It's
Yeah.
just cringe at points as well.
Speaking of vocals in general, let's just talk about the
Oh, the
cleans
cho-
really
yes.
quick. And the chorus.
Oh, the chorus. So I was looking this up. Apparently, like the lead singer, he was like learning how to sing clean.
Oh,
Right?
that, yeah,
Yeah.
that is very evident.
I
He is
believe you.
Not a singer.
No.
And hey, a little tidbit. They've released 2 albums after this. He does not do any clean singing on them for
Cool.
good reason.
Nice. They learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, it's if it wasn't evident, yeah, he was like learning how to sing. The only way I can describe it is it sounds like a dad rock cover band playing at a
Yes,
bar
dude,
that is trying
literally.
Yeah.
trying to be as like cool as possible when doing it. And that's the whole album. And it is so
Frustrating.
You said a great word. It's so cringy. And there
Yeah.
are oddly enough, because this is one of the worst choruses on the album.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no, trust me, one of the worst, not the worst. There are some. There's
get
plenty more.
Okay, as long as we're on the same page about
It's
that.
one of the worst, and yet, yeah, it just it. Yeah,
Sadly, it sets the tone for the rest of the album.
yeah.
Unfortunately.
Now I will give. I wrote these notes to make it possible to write good things at parts that I genuinely
Yeah.
liked. The one thing I liked about this was the final chorus where he just screamed the lyrics and they had that one guitar lead
Yeah.
that was really piercing. It fit the tone. It fit the anger that they were trying to present. And I was like, this is cool. If they had done this for the other choruses, I would have been on board.
However,
However, the outro felt also disorganized as
dude,
fuck.
the brand mask like fake out at the end,
Yeah.
just repeating "never be" over and over again.
Yeah,
That
which was
lame.
so unnecessary.
Yeah.
If I can talk about, well, the outro, yeah, I think they were going for like, let's do weird, and it just sounds like
It doesn't
they
work.
turned like the sensitivity down,
Yeah.
and he was on the other side of the
Yeah.
room. Like I'm not getting like weird and edgy out of that.
just
I'm
getting,
getting
like, unprofessional.
incompetent. Yeah.
Oh, and I don't know if this is true or not. I'll have to look this up afterward. And this shouldn't really make a difference. I do think this album was live tracked, which if you don't know what I mean by that, like listeners and whatever, live tracked is when the band is in the studio and they're all playing at the same time versus multi-tracked, which is, you know, each band member records their parts one at a time. It usually sounds a lot more clean. It sounds a lot more well produced. If they multi-tracked this album,
Dude.
I would be embarrassed.
It's so muddy. That'd be fucking insane if that happened.
So I'm gonna look that up because that might just
Yeah.
add to the embarrassment
Yeah.
that I had when listening to this album.
It's pretty evident that they live tracked it, considering like 4 songs at the very end. They're like, "Oh my god, that was so cool!" Like their
Yeah.
little like
Yeah.
post song like
like jibber
Yeah,
jabber,
little jubilee.
It starts this album too
And it's
with
so-
just the left channel
It's
for
so
some reason.
fucking annoying.
Yeah.
I hate when artists do that anyway, but the fact they did that 5 times really pissed me off. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote in my notes, like, the intro was concerning. Like, it's a canary
Yeah.
in the coal mine
Yeah.
for how disjointed this album's going to be. The riff itself is
It's whatever.
fine.
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
like the mixing of it and the
It's so
and
off.
and it's so clear that a lot of these little touches, the band really thinks they're
Oh,
cool.
they're
Yes.
loving it. They are
And-
loving it so much.
Oh, just wait till you watch
my
the
God.
Doris music video. They did it. So the first time they performed this song live was at Knotfest 2016. And they were like, we have a new song. We're shooting a music video right now for it. Go crazy. And all the shots, they're like trying to look as crazy as possible. And the crowd's like into it. But like, you can't really hear what it sounds like live because, you know, it's live sound. It's very hard to decipher what a song is supposed to sound like. But then you put the actual song in context of the video and it's like, oh,
Yikes.
God, this is just really, really cringy.
Yeah, I can't imagine like people just fucking moshing to give.
I can imagine a mosh pit stopping.
Yeah,
and just
there's like the
what?
fuck?
everyone cocks their heads and
Yeah.
just looks up at the stage.
Oh, I'm also going to start a counter of, this is a Korn bit.
Oh,
I was gonna
yeah.
do the same for Deftones.
Because it happens way
Oh my
too
God,
much
dude.
on this. I
Yeah.
noticed more Korn than Deftones, but they're both very present.
Yes.
The first one is on this song during the chorus. Eddie picks a note specifically that ends the chorus that is like, oh, that is a Korn note. Like, that is what Jonathan Davis would have done vocally.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we obviously see what he's doing there. That's the first time on this album.
All right, we got one.
Bet.
Well, with that, we have a lot more tracks to get through.
Yeah.
So shall we move on to Silence?
Another one that starts off promising.
You know,
I-
seamless
I-
transition.
I
Yeah.
appreciate the
Those.
6/8 feel, as always.
I did think it was kind of weird that it just goes right into like a shuffle, like immediately. But
I thought it was okay.
But the shuffle was cool. Like,
Uh-huh.
the riff was very chuggy, which I was like, this is cool. Like, this is, like, I want to see where this goes.
yeah,
I wrote down in my notes because as opposed to the next album, I knew I was gonna not be able to recall
Yeah,
some details
of course.
about this.
Exactly.
So a lot of them I wrote down like little bits, and I just called this one the chugging one.
yes, that
Yeah.
it is.
In my notes,
Correct.
I have big chug riffs are sick. The very next thing I have is, and this first fucking
They ruined
blows.
it. Yeah,
Here we are.
like they sound like super strained.
I felt
Yeah.
so uncomfortable
Yeah.
when he was doing that. Here we are. I was like, oh.
I would have preferred actual silence. I'm not gonna lie.
Boy, this silence sure is making me suicidal.
Yeah,
All right, Rodney, calm down.
I'll tell you.
I'll tell you. Yeah, this moaning thing that this like Chino Deftones moaning thing that he's
Yeah.
trying to mimic
Yeah.
is coming off as
It's weird. Uncomfortable.
Like, I was gonna say creepy, but it's not creepy. It's just uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
it
is a little-
fuck?
It's just like unpleasant to listen to.
A little too moany for my taste. I think this
I
one
can
and
handle some
another
moan.
one.
This is just too much moan.
Yeah,
Well
like
done, okay.
Deftones,
Yeah.
Chino in Deftones does it well.
Yes.
He does that aesthetic very well. Eddie does not.
No, he
and
does not.
shouldn't ever attempt to do it again.
Try his best.
There's a reason they do not play these songs live ever.
Back to the like dad's band trying to be cool. This starts really a trend that's not on Doris and the rest of the album. If that makes sense, like
From here on out.
from here
Yeah.
on out,
Yeah.
yeah. where it's I don't know how old the lead singer was
They
at
sound
this
13.
point, but they're really trying to sound young.
Oh, yeah.
The
And
lyrics,
it's-
especially.
and we'll get to it.
It's just funny that he goes, "Here we are, something about transparent." Like I audibly like there are so many points on this album where I just was caught so off guard. I
know.
didn't know what to do but laugh, and that
Yeah.
was the first moment on the album.
I mean, for good reason, dude. Like, holy
So,
shit.
Like
It's jarring.
it's so
it's
jarring.
like what?
And, like,
Why?
why did you do that? And then the pre-chorus, like he sounds so like problematic.
Yeah.
Is the easiest way. He just sounds problematic.
Bro, y'all are gonna need me to get my inhaler out. Jesus Christ.
Dude, lyrically, this thing is fucking
Oh,
crazy.
it's-
Like the amount of like fucks they just throw in it just takes you out of it so much.
The later track,
yeah.
really, really bad.
Oh, what's the term? The
Premature fuck.
Premature fuck. Yeah, there's a lot of them on this album.
Yeah.
Here's Korn counter number 2.
Okay.
The chorus, the silence. That's a Jonathan Davis. You're trying to
Yeah.
sound like Jonathan Davis. Don't deny it.
Classic
Like,
J Devil moment.
Yeah,
What
like
do you think
don't
is a
deny
better
it.
album? This or Korn Unplugged?
Korn Unplugged. Are you kidding me? At least Korn Unplugged, it was like,
Original.
well, it was at least like, I think they were self-aware, like, we don't do this, so we're just
gonna
gonna
fuck
run
around.
with it.
Yeah.
You know?
They're actually trying.
This
Yeah.
is like, they're trying, and it's like, oh, this was the first song where I made the note of Eddie as a vocalist. To give you context, he is a deathcore vocalist. He was in he still is actually in a band called All Shall Perish. His vocals are like his screams are genuinely really good on the You Can't Stop Me Suicide Silence album. The 2 following this album, really good. He does the deathcore vocals really well.
Yeah, there
the
are some good
screams
moments.
that he chooses for this album, I don't know why he did it. These are not like his screams don't sound good to me. He has moments, like you said, where his screams are like, oh, that's the Eddie that like
Yeah.
I know. But I don't know. I think he was just going for that like more yelly scream that was more present in the 90s. But man, it's such a bummer because he is a good vocalist, and this album
It does not
doesn't
show that
do
off.
it justice at all. It's so like underwhelming. Also, this song does not need to be nearly 5 minutes long.
No, that
A lot of these
yeah.
songs
There
don't need to
there
be as
is
long.
some bloat on
Oh my
here.
god, the
Yeah.
fake out endings. Like this album is like 47 minutes. It feels like an hour.
Yeah,
Like, it's
this
crazy.
album could be 30 minutes.
Yes, 'cause
There's a fake out on this album we'll get to later
Yeah.
that made me want to just like throw my phone.
I know.
The benefit of this, I work a manual labor job, and this made me so angry that like I was getting so much work done,
Yeah.
which was actually
You went
kind
like
of
a
plus,
fugue state.
Not gonna lie. But yeah, no, this track, Jesus Christ.
And the ending, they do the same bit as the
Yes,
last song.
literally.
Which
You know,
is common.
It worked so well the first time, right?
You know what? Second verse, same as the first.
These guys are going to love it so much. We're going to do it about every song,
Yeah.
almost.
Four
you know?
more times.
It's so
Yeah.
charming.
It's,
The one, I know the production overall just sucks. I really hate how, like, despite it being loud, it somehow feels like it's not loud enough.
Yeah.
And the backing vocals can, like, barely be heard in parts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
trust me, we don't need to hear them.
I know, but also, good lord. Oh, man.
Yeah. You have all that going on, but you can't hear it.
Exactly.
Well, shall I move on?
Yeah, let's listen.
Yeah. Let's listen, Evan. To
Because
listen.
they sure fucking didn't
No,
when
they
this
did
album was
not.
finished.
Uh-uh.
So we had to.
I need to say, the first lyric sounds like peg and not break. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
When he says, I'm gonna peg, what was it?
I'm going to peg you.
yeah, literally.
Classic.
I had to literally look. I was like, did he
Wait
just say
a
he's gonna
minute.
peg me? What the fuck?
Man, Suicide Silence is crazy.
Here's Korn counter number 3.
Let's go.
Actually, not from the vocals, the instrumental. This sounds like a Korn song. Like, just straight up, it sounds like from their album Issues.
I said it sounds like the soundtrack to a Tony Hawk ripoff.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, it just sounds like something from a Korn album.
It sounds like I got like Ghost vibes from this one, like from their first album specifically, based off the production as well. Because
Like
that
the
album's very
crunchy
muddy.
production
Yeah.
of Opus Eponymous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just start. I wrote, it's like he just 100.
Uh,
And
Yeah.
There's no buildup. And I know it's metal. I know that you can this isn't how it works. You have to like build up to something. You can just start
Yeah.
off, but when you're starting off like this, it's not a good thing.
No, it's not. And then it gets only worse in the chorus when you have
torrential.
the spoken
so
word.
bad.
You have the hee-hees in the background too.
It almost kind of
so
reminded me delivery-wise of like Vessel
Oh,
in
hell
parts
yeah.
and how fucking annoying like his...
Dude, Sleep Token, my favorite.
You
Also,
heard
love
it here
it.
first, folks.
You heard it here. Ben Mascioli, big
Favorite
Sleep
band.
Token band. Yeah, you know what? I'll say this. The instrumentals on the first two songs, I said were at least okay to
Yes.
decent.
exactly.
This is the first song where I said these suck.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever wrote this song, this was the epitome of let's throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Because nothing flowed well.
No.
There were no good transitions on this song. And there's a lot of times on this album where the transitions aren't good. But this song was like just a song of
Just a mess.
horrible transitions.
Yeah.
A complete disorganization.
And at the end, like you're getting into solos. I'm like, okay, this is good. And then immediately
Yeah.
they put the growling underneath it. I'm like,
Why did you do that?
Yeah.
If you're gonna space out a song, that one you actually could have put the solos and then had the growling after, which is something I can't believe I'm even saying. But like, that's I think how you structure this album better than they did, because more than half, most of the songs after Silence, I feel like you get to like halfway through and you're like, well, that's it, right? And
Yeah.
then you
And then it keeps
look,
going.
And then you look at
the
like,
runtime.
progress
There's 3
bar.
minutes left. It's crazy.
It is funny. This should have ended after 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's a 5.5 minute song.
5 minutes is way undeserved.
I made a specific note to say the clean singing at 3 minutes and 5 seconds is actually the most stupid shit that they could have done. And then I said, and then right after that, going back into this dumbass clean section is stupid too. So,
I like the kind of like 80s guitar lick they threw in there because, like, why not?
because why
Yeah.
fucking again
Yeah.
throw shit at the wall?
It's not
Exactly.
even pleasant. Like that little guitar, little solo
Yeah.
riff thing. It's
It-
not even pleasant to listen to.
It was different at least.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
Back to Korn, like Korn in a way really likes The Cure, and so I think there are parts of this album where they're like, well, we have to like The Cure in the same way. And like,
And it doesn't work.
No.
and I was sitting there, I was like, what does this remind me of? And then I looked up the producer and it was like, oh, they did one of The Cure's albums in the 2000s. I was like, there we go.
Yep.
That's
That's
Robert
it.
Smith.
Yep.
Of course, like I think out of all of us here, I have the least expansive gauge of like metal, I guess like good metal, bad metal, and like all the different subgenres within it. It was here when I realized I was like, why is this ending like new metal as fuck? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really get a sense of that for like the first two.
Yeah.
But then like the ending, I was
Yeah,
like,
like the
what
little
the fuck is
shoegazy
going?
break.
Why am I hearing Disturbed at the end of this?
So this is Korn counter number 4. At the outro of this song is just them bidding the end of Blind by Korn, because at the end of Blind by Korn they do this like drum bass little groove with the guitars kind of like doing cool like squeal things. This is basically just their interpretation of that, and it's like, why? Like, you don't need to add a minute and 20 seconds of this. Let the song just die and move on. Speaking of dying,
Dying in a Red Room, next up.
And I think this is a good transition. Like, I wrote down, the thing is that they're capturing the vibe of late 90s metal,
Yeah.
but they're just not pulling it off. That's the
No.
whole thing.
yeah. This is the first slow song on the album,
Yeah.
and there's 2 notable slow songs.
yeah.
This one
This
I
is
thought
the
was
first one. It's I said the instrumental starts at an interesting place.
Yeah.
Like and you know what? For him just learning how to sing, barely. This is the first time where I'm like, okay, his cleans are actually not horrid here, but you can just tell he's not a singer. This
Yeah.
is this is even though
Oh my god, yeah.
even though like he was singing in the other songs and I was like, oh my god, these are garbage. This is the first time where it's like, man, you can tell he's not a singer. Like, he's really trying and it's just not there.
The fucking chorus. The lyrics on the fucking chorus.
I'm dying
Oh,
through life.
My
I'm living through
lifestyle
death.
determines my death style.
That's what it
guys.
feels like. You know
Yeah.
what? This is the first song where I was like, this is like where I actually started to pay attention to the lyrics because I kind of felt like I was forced to. And
Yikes.
it sounds like a kid.
So I wrote a joke about the lyrics. I forget what the exact line is. I just wrote, oh yes, those newfangled feet shoes. Because there's a part where he's like, I'm wearing the shoes on my feet.
Oh, thank God.
As opposed to hand shoes, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think it's 70% of the lyrics I
gloves.
looked up is just the one line. I'm dying, or what's the line?
I'm dying through life. I'm living through death.
yeah.
Yeah,
Amen.
that's like 70% of the lyrics.
I
And
would,
it just feels so pseudo deep.
and it's
Yes.
crazy that that's not the worst worst line on
No,
this album.
no,
Yeah.
it's not.
Oh my god, that is that. Honestly, you're right. That isn't the worst line on here.
isn't even the worst line. I'm trying.
I have a question though. Did anyone else hear like a tempo tear in the last chorus? Like, I feel like there was a part where like the drums sped up over the vocals and they had to like get back on track, and he just like kept it in.
There was I don't know if I noticed that, but there was a moment where you can tell the drummer messed up.
Yeah.
And they kept going. Maybe it was this song.
Could have.
I think it was
But
this one.
it was like there was a moment where the drummer messed up and
Yeah.
he keeps going. And I remember thinking like, oh, he's probably going to do that again the next time because it was like purposeful. And he doesn't. And I was like, oh, that was
Yeah,
just
it
a
just
straight up
left it in.
mistake that they didn't fix.
Yeah.
I see. I didn't notice that, but I guess live tracking. That's one.
Well,
of
you'll
the,
never find out because you'll probably never listen to this album again.
You're right.
I will say this: if I had to pick a favorite song off of this, I would pick this one.
Out of
because,
irony.
because the times I listened to it, it genuinely put a smile on my face. I was sitting there and he was singing, and I was just like, this is just good.
Thanks, Eddie.
That's the way to be.
Oh, this is just great.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. Shall we get to the next track?
Let's do it.
Hold me up, hold me down.
This might be the contender for the worst chorus on the album.
I would very much hear that argument.
Yeah.
Hold me up! Hold me up!
Get off my nerves, or what's left of them, guys.
Hold me down.
Most passive aggressive,
Hold me
like
up.
like these freaking like emo as fuck lyrics, but
Yeah.
like not even good emo.
No,
Like
it's very bare bones, surface level, 12-year-old writing in their journal.
it's I don't know if it was here, if it was another song. His songwriting, he likes to write like one thing and then write the complete opposite of that thing, and thinks it's like the
Way to be.
way to be.
Yeah, again, pseudo deep. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
What I will say, again, I try to give praises where they're deserved. The first riff, awesome.
Yeah.
Great first riff. And the vocals, I
Yeah,
don't
when they're
like the
screaming.
screaming.
Okay.
But, well, I mean, I don't like the tone of the screaming, but it fits really well
Yeah.
with this riff. So this song, again, like a lot of them, starts very promising. But this is another track where the transitions kill it.
Yeah.
And then the chorus murders it.
Oh, it's bad.
It bludgeons it.
I also need to say, this is the first time I've ever heard like a premature fade out. Does anybody else like remember that?
Oh my God. Yeah.
The
yeah.
fade out of the
Wasn't-
song, it's so fast.
I got
Yeah.
you.
Like
yeah.
I remember I was like, oh shit, it's over.
I guess.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Maybe that was live in the studio. They were like, okay, that's enough. Like
Oh fuck. We got 5 more tracks.
Oh man, this song.
Yeah, they also
God.
live mixed it.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised with
Yeah.
how this album sounds. That sounds about right. Yeah, the chorus is laughable. This is another moment where I laughed out loud
Yeah.
at this
yeah.
chorus.
Dude. Dude, like literally, like the hold me ups, like I said, it reminded me of Candy off of Chocolate and Cheese.
yeah,
where
I
you
could-
hear
I
fucking
could
Gina
see
in the
that.
trunk. I was like, this is
I
like a
could see
bit.
that.
This is like fucking
It
bit.
feels
they're
like a
doing.
bit, and yet it sounds so serious.
Yeah, like so
which is
sincere.
so like why. That's why it's funny.
Yeah.
like it's not like even if it was a joke, I'd be like, oh, haha, whatever. The fact that it's serious makes it even funnier. 'cause
Exactly.
It's like, damn,
Like you tried on this, dude.
you really tried.
That's
didn't
crazy.
You?
I do agree that the music itself isn't that bad, all
Yeah.
things considered.
I fuck with the bass line on the track. I think it's
No,
pretty
yeah.
nice. Yeah.
I will say the breakdown halfway through this song is nasty as fuck, and it's the first time on the album where he does his deathcore
Yeah.
style vocals, where it's like that's what you should have been doing this whole time.
I guess 2 things. One, and I don't know if this is true from what you're saying, I put this track down as my guess at what your most liked one would be.
No, this is not my most liked.
Yeah, that's in spite of the chorus. That
Yeah, no, the chorus was fucking garbage. And quite frankly, the beatdown section at the end, I had a stank face. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
this is a really fucking good section. And then he started doing the hold me up, and I was like, no,
Not again.
no, you ruined it.
I mean,
It took me out of it. So like
Yeah.
I was ready, like I was in mosh mode, like I'm ready to throw hands. And then he did that, and I was like, no, dude.
and like that makes sense that you liked it. Personally, I was like, I can't take the guttural.
Oh my God,
pitched.
yeah.
I get why you would like that section.
To be fair,
to my ears, I hated
the
it.
gutturals I don't think were mixed well.
Okay.
That's a production thing, because if he were to do those gutturals and they actually produced the album, they would sound a lot gnarlier. But the fact that they're going for this garage vibe thing or whatever. It just sounds super boxy. It's cool. It's cool as a vocalist because it's like you can really hear what his actual voice sounds like when doing the gutturals. Because when you're in a studio and you're recording screams or whatever, you want to process them so that they sound even more nasty than what they might actually sound like in real life.
Makes sense.
And they don't do that here. They give you the raw guttural that he does. Quite frankly, I don't think it's the lowest he can go. I think he can go lower with gutturals that sound gnarly. This is just a nice demonstration of what he could have done.
Yeah.
And like you listen to, like, if you guys get the chance just to listen to one song off the album, You Can't Stop Me, that is like the closest you'll get to like the prime Suicide Silence with Eddie on vocals, essentially. And that's where his vocals really shine. And it's like that's why they picked him to be the vocalist.
Gotcha. Here, however,
it's
I didn't like the constant slowdown and speed ups at the end that went on for like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of that.
And that's the thing. That was the beatdown section where I was like, I like this, but it just dragged way too long. Especially when they added
the chorus vocals. Yeah.
And they did it twice. And it was like, why?
Because they really believed in
They
this.
really believed in this album. They thought, dude, we have fucking gold on our hands. We're about to be the biggest metal band.
Hold me up, hold me down. Like, please.
I tell you.
Yeah, push them down, hold them down, under the water, no breathing. Anyway,
It just makes me want to run.
Anyway.
Speaking of which,
the breakdown made me want to run. I will say that. Speaking of run, that's the next.
Dude, that was Ben. Did you come up with that on the spot, man? That was awesome.
God, I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like this might be a little too mean. I feel like the beat I made for the prediction time jingle is better than whatever the fuck happened in the beginning of this.
Oh my god!
I'm not even kidding. Like, and that was just a fucking like.
oh, for run?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I just wrote General MIDI type drums.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, and that shit that I made for Tom's, that was just fucking BandLab, like freaking like drum pattern shit.
Maybe that's what they did too.
Yeah, they made this on BandLab.
Yeah. What is it? Paper Kit? Paper Jams?
Paper Jams.
Paper Jams. Fuck.
Shout out to fucking T-Pain.
I will say the opening riff was cool, and I think that's just a constant theme throughough this whole album.
It's
like
false promises.
it is. It always starts with a cool riff where it's like, oh, this is a cool idea.
Yeah.
And then like, dude, these like heavy riffs followed by these slow verses are so tiring at this point. It's like you are beating a dead horse at this point.
Which
like,
is
Jesus Christ, do something else.
Which is funny because, like, I said the groove isn't terrible, but it's just not well utilized. And this is ironic considering the next song title. It reminds me of Zero by Smashing Pumpkins.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
and, you know, they're kind of emulating that style. I mean, Deftones and Smashing Pumpkins are like, you know,
Hand in
stones
hand.
throw away from each other. But, like, say what you will about Donna. This is so much worse than that.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is,
It's not even a competition.
it's just...
I mean, this is just another example of a garbage chorus. I hope you know. I hope you... It's, dude, stop.
Your impressions
dude.
get funnier and funnier
It's
every
accurate.
single time.
The lyrics of this song specifically are cringy. This is the vibe of, oh, look at me. I'm so crazy. You want to run away from me because I'm so crazy.
get nuts?
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
You're so cute. You're so cute.
Yes,
you
me.
want to get nuts? You're visibly my friend. You want to get nuts?
Yeah, make me run.
I'm going to get you. Hee hee. Like, it's
Hold me
so...
up, hold me down. You want to get nuts?
Yeah,
It's
to
so
me,
bad.
Crazy glue is just, you know, normal glue, man. That would have been
thesis
funnier
statement.
that would have been funnier if I didn't stutter my
Hey,
way
the
through
power
it.
of editing.
No,
Ooh.
I still found it very funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, it's
This one, like, I don't really have too much to say because at this point I kind of checked out in the album. It just kind of reminded me of just
Understandable.
like phoning it in is just like type in an AI like what new metal is. This is like what they would put out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
you know what the chorus reminds me of? It's like if you're playing Rock Band and like some guy is stuck on vocals and like he's not great, but he wants to really,
He's really
sound
trying.
like whoever the vocalist is, and so he
Puts
with
on a
this
voice.
14-year-old voice
Yeah.
just goes
Yeah.
as low in his register as possible.
Yeah.
And you end up with this.
Yeah, Corn counter number 5, I think.
Let's go.
The breakdown is a Corn breakdown. It's not bad here. It's just not original. That's kind of all I had to say. Like, it's not like I've heard it before. I could pick out almost any Corn song and be like, there's the breakdown that they use already.
Call that shucking some corn.
Call that shucking corn. Also, the guitar tones, I'll call that corn counter number 6. These are heavily inspired corn guitar tones specifically on this song.
And I think that was to their benefit because I would say the guitars are like, if not the only thing, one of the only good things about this track.
Yeah.
I would argue at least.
The only other thing I said is that they should have ended the song right after the breakdown. They shouldn't have gone into that final chorus because everyone really wanted to fucking hear that chorus one more time.
And it's funny because they did that on the past 5 tracks as well.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing that like they're going with this formula and it doesn't fucking work for what they're going for.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Dude, at this point, it sounds like he's just fucking phoning it in. He's like saying shit, like it's just to say shit.
He's just saying, fuck it. What are you saying, Eddie? What is that? Like, oh, fuck! Eddie, what's wrong? I'm just adding vocals.
Hold me down!
Dude, do you like my improv? Like my ad-libs, dude? Shit goes crazy.
It'd be crazy if he ad-libbed Hold Me Down later on the album.
He was like, Hold Me Up was the plan, but he's like, dude,
Like, they're
hold me down.
they're on like a later track, and then all of a sudden he just goes, Hold me up! And it's just like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing?
Do that again.
Wait, Eddie, that was weird, but it kind of was cool. Do
Guys,
it again.
for every album, there is like a boardroom meeting of some kind.
Yeah.
That's the thing that makes me upset about this.
Yeah, they let this happen.
Exactly.
Well, the thing about all the long songs is like it's deathcore. This thing
Yes.
could have been 20
Yes.
minutes and no one would have been like, man, that's too short. Like,
No.
right.
Well, and that's the problem is it's not deathcore. Like they're a deathcore
yeah,
band. Like that's their biggest enemy on this album is they are known as one of the most legendary deathcore bands, if not the most legendary deathcore band of all time. And they did.
And they're not doing deathcore.
And they're not doing
Yeah.
deathcore.
If anyone ever says like, there's so many subgenres of metal, they've all got to like sound the same. This is your proof.
Yeah.
This is your proof
That you
of
can't
nothing.
just like jump between them. This
Yeah.
is your proof that like
There's layers.
it's not just like fast and slow. It's not. There's some nuance to this, and you can't
Some
just
people
jump
fuck it
over.
up. Yeah.
I think I'm very proud of myself because, like I say again, as somebody who has not had like the most exposure to metal overall as a genre, I feel like I was able to be like, wow, this is even like the good kind of
Yeah.
bad.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Speaking of bad,
Yeah, speaking of bad, not just bad, speaking of some of the ratings this fucking album has gotten,
the
zero.
Dude, I hate this chorus
The
so much.
delivery of him
Yes.
saying creates the canvas to mold pisses me off so bad.
I hate like
There's
the,
a lot of cadences on this song
Yeah.
where it's like this song specifically, like the 2 lyrics that stood out for me. The first one was everything expires at some point before it's time. It's like, the fuck are you even saying?
Leave my
Like,
eggs alone.
like,
dude.
that is some really random stupid shit. That's
really
just
dumb.
like
Eddie's
again,
in your
it's-
fridge and just taking out all the food. Dude, it's expired.
It's
What?
gonna expire at some point. Did you know that? It's like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, are you trying to be pseudo deep? Because this isn't even deep. You're just saying a statement and you're trying to make it sound cool. And it's like, shut the fuck up.
I think like going off of that too, like his like performance with those lyrics, like it's the worst combo on this song.
Horrible.
It makes
Like,
no sense.
Verse 2,
Fucking awful.
like the lyric composition and vocal delivery are so fucking bad. Like the lyric, like paint the town on a masterpiece. Then he speeds up to like rush the line, creates a new canvas to mold.
It's so
yeah. And then like the titular, the 0 line is used to like segue into the next stanza, but he's jumping the gun on it. So it's like something, the 0 into the next like line.
It is funny. For the chorus, I wrote, "Oh wow, another garbage chorus! Yay!" Another cadence thing, like a phrasing that he does that made me go, "What the fuck?" Was during the line that is just, it makes no sense until it happens. The way he says it is, it makes no sense until it happens. And it's like, what? Why did you do that? There was no need
Why?
for that.
Why,
Why
Eddie?
did you do
The
that?
album was
Eddie?
sponsored by Bic Pens, so they just had to squeeze that in there
Oh,
towards the
it
end.
was product placement.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
I
no,
see.
That makes
this
sense.
this does include my personal pick for worst lyric on the album.
Yeah.
Hell is too good for us.
Yep.
Heaven is an electric chair.
Oh my God.
That one's awful. And so
Uh,
I'll just
I will say though, that's a line where if I was 12, I would have thought that went hard. as fuck.
yeah, exactly.
and I knew you at 12 and I would agree with that
You would
statement.
think, yeah, you would think that.
You-
wouldn't you?
we have the receipts.
And these people were like in their 30s, and they also thought it went hard as well.
Okay, so full transparency. I said in the beginning I listened to Did I call Donna? Doris, whatever.
Yeah, I know what you were talking about, though.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Donna's the 10cc song.
That it
Anyway.
is. Yeah.
I listened to Doris and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to come back to this at a different time. And so, like, a week ago, I listened to this full thing in the car and I was just like, oh, God. And I gave it another listen today because I'm like, I have to get notes down.
Yeah.
I have to
That's
do
exactly
this.
what happened to me.
I have to do this. And it had just rained, but it had stopped raining and it was really nice out. I went for a walk. And at first I was listening to Brian Eno and it was great. And I was like, okay, I have to actually do the work here. And so it's like this beautiful spring day. And I'm walking around listening to this piece of shit. And it gets to this song. It gets to the zero. And like, I'm almost back at my house and the song's about to end. And then the ending bit happens, and that's what I'm saying. I was nearly just like, fuck it, just like done. What happened? It's like, okay, the song's over. Nope. And
I know. They just keep, they don't do anything to earn it either.
Right.
Yeah.
And guys, thank God. I was so curious. What did they do after the song? And guess what? They delivered. They enlightened me with the fucking information, and I could not be happier. I just need to say.
Yeah. I will say, if you take the last 30 seconds of the song, that like breakdown, if you take that out of the song on its own, it is objectively a good breakdown.
Yeah.
In context, it's like,
Why is this here?
It's the most random thing.
Yeah.
Now, I will give praises. The instrumental on this song is really cool. The guitar textures, I actually think, are really neat for what they were doing.
Yes, especially in the intro.
They don't feel super out of place. Like it's like on it's on this line where like there is throwing shit at the wall like they do in Listen with the instrumental. Then there's this where they're just on the side of, okay, this could work, but you're really teetering. Like if you go any farther, you are off track. This one, they just barely were able to keep it together instrumentally. So I will give praises there. Instrumental is good. Vocals ruin it.
Yeah.
I will say, me kind of talking about how they did that studio, like, oh, what if we showed them what we did in the studio thing and my delivery of that? Kind of going back to Michael Keaton. You know how he's like, and I've seen The Exorcist 6 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it, from Beetlejuice. That's how I feel kind of about, like...
Suicide, you're just going insane.
And it keeps getting worse every single time I hear it.
Well,
Oh, man.
we're almost done.
So close.
Penultimate track, we have Conformity. Another switch to 6/8. We take those. Starts off fully clean and acoustic, which is interesting.
It sounds like a Silent Hill intro.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Did anyone else think that it was just Nothing Else Matters by Metallica? Am I the
also
only
does
one that am I the
sound
only
like
one
that.
that literally was like, oh, they're literally bidding Nothing Else Matters right now?
Yeah.
It was like the most obvious bit, and I was like, that's crazy.
Well, it's better than bidding Saint Anger, which is what the rest of this feels like.
In quality. Yeah.
I would much rather take the Black Album over.
It's just like the tones, the actual acoustic riff in the beginning, it's all way too on the nose for me to not point it out. I don't know.
This is also the point on a first listen where the songs were building up and I was like, these lyrics seem very juvenile. Like, this seems really shallow for adults. But I don't know. The emotions in metal, I don't usually jive with. Maybe this is mediocre at best. I get to this song. This is middle school shit. What are you doing? You are adults.
Yeah. I mean,
Literally.
I didn't have many notes for this song. The two I had that I'll just say is, and I'll show you guys my notes, is these guys just can't win with writing a chorus or hook with the crying emoji. That's how I felt about it. Conformity!
It's accurate.
It's
Unfortunately.
it's so bad. And then the only other note I had was, imagine this album just came out and you haven't listened to it, but you go up to your friend and you're just like, the deathcore legends just released this album. Let's listen to this song, Conformity. And this is what you hear. It is the most jarring, most taking the left turn possible song on this album. I guess this is supposed to be your typical penultimate ballad before your like
your big climax
finale or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, dude, you didn't. This is like this is a
like even with like what they were going for on this track, they fail because like there's like a nice build up in the verses, like they like build that tension, and then they fuck it up in the choruses because all the instruments drop out.
They all drop
except
and
for
you just
the
get the
guitar
fucking
and vocals. Yeah.
I just need to say, to me, this is disastrous, Skylar. In retrospect, I am the disaster.
I guess I'll give a little praise to the guitar solo.
I
Although
don't have to.
It was
You don't have to if you don't need to.
I wrote
Yeah.
the same thing, in all fairness.
But to be fair, like I'll give praise in terms of like it fit with the vibe, but again, it wasn't anything exciting. It just was like, oh, okay, you're doing a Metallica solo that in Metallica form is a little longer than it probably should be.
Yeah.
And instead of just ending it after the guitar solo, you decide to do the fucking chorus again. No one wants to fucking hear the
man.
chorus again of this song.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I wrote,
Yeah, they really thought, yo, these choruses bang, bro.
I wrote, I can't tell if this is the best track on the album musically or the worst lyrically.
Yeah.
That just gave me an idea. I think someone should remix this album where you open up a program and it plays the album, but it just randomizes what choruses happen when. So you're just halfway through one song, like you're just listening to Conformity, and then the chorus for "Hold Me Up, Hold Me Down" just comes in. Like you could use some stuff to like extract the stems out of it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You can make it happen.
I mean, who would want to do that?
Hey,
But I think
family
it would be-
heads, anyone out there interested?
I'll do it. But it's just like funny enough. Like think about it. Conformity, and then he does the chorus, and then it's like a little instrumental. All you hear is "Hold me up."
The zero.
Ben, I think you could genuinely do a Suicide Silence self-titled
Cover.
but only recreated with my voice.
Oh my god, yes. Dude, that's your new niche.
Jesus. Yeah.
Well, guys.
I have nothing to say about that song anymore.
Speaking of nothing to say. Oh.
Did you have something, Matt?
No, I'm just smiling because of my notes.
Oh, because we're almost done too.
Because I keep making myself laugh with the stuff that I wrote down.
Yeah.
Last up, we have "Don't Be Careful, You Might Hurt Yourself." The vocalist sure did.
That's actually what the producer said to the lead singer.
I put in quotes next to this, possibly my favorite song on the album. Maybe.
Is that only because this is such a nothing track? I think of anything on this album, maybe it's just because it's the last track, but like I had no notes about this except for the outro, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I said was, before I even listened to the song, this is the dumbest fucking title for a song.
Yes.
It's "Don't Be Careful, You Might Hurt Yourself." Shut the
fucking
fuck
crazy.
That's
dude.
a Will Wood title. Like
shut the
borderline.
fuck
That's like a few words away
It
from being
needs
a
like
Will
a
Wood
couple
title.
ellipses and
Yeah,
semicolons.
it needs parentheticals.
But you're right.
Blue
it is
Velvet,
the,
apparently.
I'm so crazy. I'm gonna fucking hurt you.
Yeah, like, and literally,
Don't be careful.
and we'll get to the outro, but the
you
outro
might hurt
personifies that to a fucking T.
Yeah.
With just sound alone.
Yeah, but what I will say, and I will probably give the most praise to this song, this is the first actual deathcore vibe song. A lot of the riffs and the
Yes.
drum beats,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is your typical deathcore sound in which they excel in. So the instrumental is actually good. I can say solidly the instrumental for this song is good. At one point, they have a closed hi-hat breakdown that I was like, fuck yeah, this is fucking awesome. Good fucking shit.
It only took us 8 tracks to get to a song with like
That
at
was
least
okay.
half yeah.
Yeah, like a solid 50%. Like we are halfway there.
And the other 50% is the vocalist, so we can't really win there.
And the screaming still proves something to be longing for on this track. Like they're still not good. And this was the most clear example of like, man, I really want to hear those deathcore vocals on this track.
Missed
But
potential.
it just wasn't there. Also, the weird fucking nu metal speaking section at a minute 48
Oh, I hate
was
that. It's
so
bad.
off-putting.
You must really love to hope this phase will fail.
Oh, fuck.
Do you want you to love me? I think we found one of the biggest anomalies here at the Family album. How is it that this track is like the most premature fucky track of all time at the end of an album?
Yeah.
Like that's
It's crazy.
I've never seen
Post-mature
that before.
fuck.
Post-mature, yeah, post-mature fuck. A post-mature... Wait. Pause. pause on that thought.
Oh man, I actually have a surprising amount of like good things to say about it. I think I deem that this closer was appropriate.
Yeah.
You know what I
in terms
mean?
of, like sound.
not good. It's appropriate.
Yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
It fits thematically. I will say there are parts vocally, like you said, that like I did kind of like his delivery, like when he says "lower me down" as opposed to "hold me down."
Thank God he switched it
Dude,
for
he
this song.
evolved. Look at that.
He evolved.
I'm gonna be gentle this time. Just lower me.
Yeah.
Don't hold me, just lower.
No, we're at the end of the album. We've earned it.
Light pressure.
This is the first chorus on the album that I actually don't mind.
Look at that.
It's like they did the right thing. They kept it heavy. He kept screaming instead of choosing to sing. It's the first chorus where I'm like, there you go. You finally figured it out after fucking 9 songs on the album. You figured it out.
It's time for the outro.
Yeah.
What?
Why am I hearing the Rugrats
Yeah,
at the end of
fucking-
fucking
Shaw
I was-
harp.
I was thinking. I know it's not whistling. I was thinking like Andy Griffith's show. It just sounds like a guy
Yeah,
just
like
like
50s
stroll-
music.
just strolling
Yeah,
around.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
It's like a bit. Yeah.
So the thing I said was this would go really hard and it would be unsettling if the album was
Oh, yes.
fucking good.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
just
it's goofy.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
literally the words
It
I
is.
wrote. I said it's just goofy as fuck and doesn't fit,
No.
and it's like a
It's like, this album drove me crazy.
It's
Like, that's
like,
what it gives.
Boing, yoing, yoing.
I'm fucking mental.
Awooga.
Yeah, it's the
I
most.
don't think any women were involved in the production of this album. I don't think.
No, definitely
I
not.
don't think in like a 5-mile radius of this recording.
No, they heard the sound like, oh, let's get out of here.
Yeah, it's the most undeserving outro
Yeah.
that they could have. Like, I'll put it like this: if they had put it on their first album, it would come off as fucking creepy. Because the first album, it ends and you're just like, oh, I feel gross. And then that happens, you're like, oh,
Stop.
this album is like,
Stop for a different reason.
yeah, stop. Like, why'd you even include it? There was no fucking purpose.
I guess I just thought it was funny.
It's stupid. That's what it is.
That it is. Much like this
Fucking
album.
dumbasses.
Yeah.
And if we don't have anything else, shall we move on to our final thoughts?
Yeah.
Who would like to go first?
Evan, since Ben, I guess, brought this was Ben's album.
You know, and I've had this experience. Sometimes you go and see a band, not like, at a big venue, like local band. And it might just be some guys on the same bill as another band that you're seeing. And they go on stage and they do their thing. And then after you run into one of the guys and he's like, hey, what are your thoughts? And like the best you can come up with is just like, man, it looked like you were having a lot of fun up there. That is this album, 2 out of 10, D-.
Oh, wow.
That's perfect.
That's accurate, too.
Good final thoughts.
Yeah. Ben?
First and foremost, I do need to give my utmost respect and praises to the band Suicide Silence for what they created for the deathcore and just the metal scene in general. They will forever be known as legends, in my opinion. Some people might not think so. I think they are the deathcore band. Some people might say Whitechapel. Some people might say Chelsea Grin. I think it is Suicide Silence. Without them, deathcore wouldn't have evolved into what it is today. And quite frankly, the OG deathcore sound that Suicide Silence was a part of is making a revival, and that just stands a testament of like what they did at the time. However, this album does not show Suicide Silence's strengths in any way, shape, or form. There's a true identity crisis going on. I don't know if it's because of the death of Mitch Lucker, because when you think about it, this is the first album that they wrote without him. Like, at least for the album previously, they started writing it with him and then he passed away. So there was still a part of Mitch in that sound, which is why it reminded everyone of like their sound, and it was good. This is the first true album without him in any way, shape, or form, and the identity crisis is crazy. I don't know if it's because of Mitch's death. I don't know if it's because they got tired of the deathcore sound. Whatever the reason is, it doesn't make this album better. It doesn't justify it. This album is, for lack of better words, garbage for the most part. This album alone caused the band to fall off very hard.
I see.
they are not as big as they once were at all. Like when I mean falling off, I mean like you don't hear people talk about their new music, which is a shame because the
That's
two
upsetting.
albums, like the album they did after this, Becoming the Hunter, that's what the album's called, is really fucking good. And I feel like not enough people have heard it. And it's a shame because this album
ruined the reputation.
To follow, to the point where the one guitarist just has a podcast where he brings on bands to keep the scene alive. And I give respect to that because it's like, okay, you're trying to keep the scene alive in a different way than making music. But it's also sad thinking,
that's where you had to go.
This is like what you're known for now, is doing this podcast, not being in one of the most legendary bands. And it's a shame.
Charles Barkley.
It's
funny.
it's really a shame because this band is like a band where when I first discovered them, they changed how I listen to metal music. I will not be revisiting this album. I gave it a 2.5 out of 10. I gave it a solid D.
It's valid. I think I'm gonna go first, Max. I feel like I have a lot to say about this album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I respect that.
Good.
Yeah. So basically, like my first note for final thoughts was just
What is there to say?
It's not very good. I mean, that makes sense for the theme. But even as someone who's like not really a metal guy, but has experience with the metal scene and doesn't really mind a switch up of style in terms of like trying to find a new sound, this fails entirely in both aspects of that. The vocals are the biggest issue, of course, or one of the big two, with just having a vocalist who doesn't know how to sing and is trying to learn. Doesn't really make for the most pleasant, engaging, or just well-crafted album at all. Production-wise, this album sounds like shit. It sounds like a DIY, like garage band, just recording with like what we used to record this podcast.
And if I may interject, like DIY can have like a nice aesthetic to that too.
Look at Twin Fantasy.
Yeah, if you really want to shed the light there. But anyway, continue.
Okay, thank you.
I
Sorry.
bet that's the first time that car seat headrest has been compared to Suicide Silence.
This is the Twin Fantasy of metal albums.
I'm saying like it's a decent album recorded on a 3DS as opposed to this where they paid a producer. Yeah.
Here at the Family Album, we like to, pioneer. We like to do
parallel.
first.
That's like how all of my notes go.
Yes, I
You're
love
just
the
describing
comparisons.
how I literally do all of my notes.
Instrumentally, this album's a mixed fucking bag because like a lot of the shit gets bogged down by the production. Guitar riffs range from fine to derivative to just plain bad. The bass lines are like solid for the most part. They don't really do anything to impress me. Drums can be decent, though I feel like there are some choices in terms of rhythm that kind of just boggle my mind. And then, oh my god, the lyrics, dude. The lyrics are atrocious.
Yeah.
It's just it's honestly embarrassing that like people like at that age were writing stuff that they firmly believed in, but it sounds like it came out of like Eric Cartman's like journal.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds
That is one of
right.
the best insults I've ever heard in my life. It sounds like Eric Cartman's journal. This is the awesome-o of metal albums.
The Butters listened to this and he thinks it's cool as fuck.
That's an insult.
Yeah.
Butters approved.
I had this at a D+, but I think like just like based off comparisons of stuff we like ranked in season 3. But it's like talking to you guys, I think I might lower it down to like a solid D. I think it's going to go solid D tier.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was really close to putting it in F tier, but
Yeah.
I couldn't quite pull the trigger just because.
Neither could I. Like, it's...
There's something.
You almost feel kind of bad. Like, that's the thing about
It's
it.
too pathetic.
I feel like F tier is like...
F tier is there's nothing redeeming.
Oh, yeah.
That's the point of, like, it's openly offensive.
Yeah,
yes.
like this was one. Yeah, and that's exactly how I felt. I was like, I wasn't truly offended.
But it's not going to hurt anyone.
It's one of the, it's one of those things where it's just like
It's just
there
not
were
good.
there were things that I liked, therefore I can't put it in F tier. But man, it was fucking close.
Matt, take it away. What do you got to say?
I'm gonna read simply what I wrote here. It's pretty plain and simple. Not that I really have any stake in the game of what metal should be / should sound like / should be written about, but this album just feels like a joke. Straight from the get-go, it sounds like Dennis, Mac, or Charlie wrote these lyrics. Like, if you told me that a TikTok comedian was trying to make a parody of metal, I would fucking believe it that it was this.
Oh my god.
The track list, while feeling brisk in certain moments, begins to lose the magic of pacing about halfway through.
Yep.
The production just sounds so flat, just all over, in my opinion, and really just uneven. The vocals are constantly, I feel like they're fighting to be louder than the music. Like, you feel them kind of fighting and that could be the live tracking product right there.
Yeah.
Like, potentially. This album just feels like no matter how much you turn up the drums, they never get any louder. The lyrics are easily the weakest part of this album, as they range from sounding like Wattpad fanfiction to middle school poetry.
Yeah.
I can tell that the attempt was made, but a lot of these could have used a heavy rewrite. And to kind of frame where this episode ranking-wise has been, the other album, this is going to be a live ranking right now. The other album, I had to go into 2 decimals.
Oh wow. Oh no. Oh boy.
So I don't really know where to put this. That's the problem. Because
Because would you call it better?
I don't know. Like,
Are you going to do a disservice one way or the other?
I don't know. I mean, some of y'all are going to be really pissed off on my season 3 ranking. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, stay tuned.
But oh god.
While you think about it, you know it's bad when
God.
it's bad when Matt said the production was so flat and it was bumpy at the same time. You know that's how bad this fucking album was.
Like-
when you said both those things, I was like, wow, 2 statements that couldn't be more true about this album. It's
Like-
so flat, yet it's so bumpy.
Something adjacent to metal. If like, let's take a good album that we reviewed this season. If like Songs for the Deaf, for example, which is just collective minds in harmony, this is collective minds in dissonance. Nobody knew what they wanted, and it shows. So, live ranking. Oh man. I don't want to put it ahead of the other album because it feels wrong.
yeah.
I'm going to have to, I also don't want to put Roger Waters ahead of anybody, if I'm being honest with you.
It's valid.
But I'm going to have to give this like a 2.6, probably.
All right.
The highest of any of us. That's considering you probably were the most hateful about
Like,
it. That
just
was
to
the
be
highest.
fair,
I was suspecting
Because
like
I have-
point.
I have
0.5.
I have other albums that I hate more than
Yeah,
this. Like
that's also valid.
Like Nostalgia Critics The Wall and Playboy Cardi. So
Yeah.
and even though that one might even production wise be better than this album, I just still hate it on principle. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it like a 2.6. I guarantee you it's gonna shift around in a couple of weeks. So that is my thoughts on Suicide Silence self-titled.
All right. Well, quite a doozy of an album, but we still have one more to go. So Evan, take us away with a little bit of history.
All right, so Roger Waters. Roger Waters was one of the founding members of Pink Floyd alongside Syd Barrett, Richard Wright, and Nick Mason. Now, as that initial band lineup went on, Syd Barrett started, having some difficulties. And so they brought on David Gilmour to fill in for some guitar work. Syd ended up leaving, and those 4 members formed the core of Pink Floyd from that point until the mid-'80s. Through that, they made a series of albums with Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and The Wall that broke sales records and made them superstars. During this time, Roger Waters gained more of a creative force in the band, and he took more creative control, although even before that, he was the primary lyricist. Due to infighting and mixture of
Hostility, creative differences.
we'll get into it. That's going to be a
Egotistical
big part of this
bullshit.
conversation.
Yeah.
In the mid-'80s, Pink Floyd split, with Roger Waters retaining the rights to The Wall, while Gilmour, Mason, and
Eventually right.
Right,
Yeah.
although he was on, I think, 2 or 3 of the tracks on...
On Momentary?
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't
He
have
was
as
like
much...
a session player.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Yeah.
they continued on as Pink Floyd, and Roger Waters charted his own course
Yes.
through a series of solo albums, one of which was covered on the show.
That's right. Season 2. Check out that
Oh,
episode.
yeah.
Yes, very true.
Pros and cons of hitchhiking.
Episode number?
30?
31? Is it 30?
I re-listened to it.
Oh,
before
okay,
this.
gotcha. I wouldn't know. But yeah, we'll say it's 30. If not, it's in the description.
An album that I have come to appreciate. But Evan, please continue.
An album that I do not appreciate. I
get it.
So Roger Waters continues on with a series of solo albums, revisits the wall in major tours and productions, and keeps fighting with the other members of Pink Floyd.
Because why wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic trait.
Anyway, so this leads up to the 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon in 2023, in which Pink Floyd, as in basically what Gilmour controls at this point, re-releases the album alongside a second disc, which is the Wembley performance.
Yep.
To also capitalize on this, Roger Waters makes the decision to re-record Dark Side of the Moon. Now, also before this, while the COVID lockdowns were going on, he started re-recording a bunch of other songs, none of which were from Dark Side. It was The Wall, Final Cut, Amused to Death. Anyway, we'll get back to this. I have a specific song where I want to, but he re-records Comfortably Numb, which really precedes the sort of style that he would bring to Dark Side, as he called it, Redux, which is the most pretentious way you can call like
A re-release or
yeah.
like a re-record.
I mean, the one time I think it worked was when John Updike did it, and he's a novelist, and Roger Waters is not a novelist. All that to say, it's not just that Roger Waters had this career with a band, and then he went solo, and then he went, hey, let me just revisit this. There's like layers to why this is the way it is, why he did it at this time. And then there's also some geopolitical stuff, which...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When do we want to talk about the elephant in the room on this?
Should we just get it out of the way right now?
Yeah,
so Roger Waters has a lot of political opinions, some of which I would say that I am in some agreement with. But infamously around this time, like the press for Redux and also these statements were happening in the same pieces. In 2022, Russia invades Ukraine. And despite a lot of other opinions that would maybe make you think like, oh, yeah, Roger Waters would be like on the side of the people being
Attacked.
unlawfully invaded.
Yeah.
He sided with Putin.
Yep.
Yeah. I've read into it. It doesn't really make sense. There's a Telegraph piece, which I'll bring up for another reason later. But even the guy writing the article is like, the opinions are contradictory. It doesn't all quite fit together. And for another musician, for another public figure, this might just be like, okay, he's saying this on social media, whatever. He addressed the UN in a live stream with his dog. That comes up briefly during Any Color You Like as an oblique reference to the flags of Ukraine and Russia. Thankfully, other than that, it's not present on here. It is present on the lockdown sessions. It's uncomfortable. Thankfully, of the many flaws on this album, that is not something that gets brought up a lot.
Yeah, it's not ever present, which is good.
But the Roger Waters that people were familiar with when this album came out was not After the Wall. It was not after Amused to Death. It was not after the Wall tour in the early 2010s. It was very specifically this version of him. And although the Russia stuff doesn't come up that directly, that sort of
It's like stigma.
leaps in logic, his sort of thought process does. And so Dark Side Redux.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't even think about the time period of this. I mean, it was recently, but I didn't even think about like the political side of things where it's like, oh yeah, his image is not good with this coming out.
And his whole point, and I think this is a big problem with the album, a lot of the press, he's like, you know, people listen to Dark Side and they continue to be warmongers and all this stuff. And I wanted to re-record it and add stuff to like make that clear. And I don't really think he does.
No, it's
I don't
not
think
at
that's
all.
right.
And quite frankly, whatever he's doing is
Not working.
not.
This kind of makes me want to go to war, if I'm being honest with you.
I kind of want, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the history behind this album. The first thing I had on here was just to talk about the cover because Dark Side is, aside from Abbey Road, I'm trying to think of any other cover art that is as iconic. Like, you might not even know the songs on it.
Yeah, but you know the album cover.
You know the album cover.
Yeah.
And you probably know the songs off of it, but like...
Yeah. But still, it's the icon that you gravitate
so
towards.
deep into the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
It's made its way into like dictionaries and encyclopedias.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that album cover, you think of your Walmart like
Graphic tee.
the graphic
Yeah.
tees. That's a huge graphic tee. Like people probably don't. A lot of people probably don't even know it's Pink Floyd.
Yeah, there's like,
you know
oh,
what I
that's
mean?
cool.
They just know the
Yeah.
image.
I think what's so interesting about the cover is that like it's not just the fact that you're seeing the Dark Side of the Wall cover. You're seeing
Dark
hands.
side of the wall.
Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. It's just on the brain.
That's just that's my dream album. No, I'm just kidding. It's not the fact that you're seeing the Dark Side of the Moon cover like just by itself or like the logo. You're seeing hands hold the Dark Side of the Moon cover.
Yeah.
And like a window, I think, behind it. Like I can't really tell because it's all like fisheye angle thing. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know.
Well, I'll say this to start. I think my opinion on the album will be pretty obvious as I'm talking about it. I don't think, like, there's some core ideas here that I don't think are bad.
Yes.
I think the idea behind this cover art is probably as good as you could do it because you're doing a reflection on Dark Side of the Moon.
Exactly.
Why it's a dog? Unless you're
Is
going
it like
with
a
it-
reference?
Like,
Is
why
it-
is it giving
'cause-
Wattpad vibes? Like, I don't know.
Ben, that might just be a you problem. I'll be honest.
I'm just really like fixated on this issue.
This wolf girl.
This wolf girl.
But I did have that thought of
Yeah,
like
because he
is-
references Obscured by Clouds on the first tracks. Like maybe it's just like a reflection of his career and just like things that you associate with Pink Floyd.
Is it the mythology on dogs?
Maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a choice that was made.
One of the many choices made.
You would think if he was going to do like a redux of an album and like incorporate like a dog, he'd choose animals or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because a dog is an animal. I don't know if you guys
There's
picked up
also
on
a
that.
track
logic
called
there.
Dogs on Animals.
Exactly.
It writes. It's like poetry and rhymes.
Hey man,
The second time AJ has referenced that around
Back
me.
to back, actually.
the making of Phantom Menace is a better movie than episode 2. Anyway,
With that said, shall we hop into it?
yeah, let's hop into
And
this.
I would just like to say, none of these tracks are. It's not Speak to Me. It's not Breathe. It's Roger Waters' Speak to Me. Roger Waters' Breathe. They do
yes.
not deserve the honor of being called that.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that.
I think that's a good idea.
Quite frankly, I feel that way about every song on
Yes,
this
that's how I
album.
wrote my notes. Roger Waters is in front of everything.
No, that makes
like,
sense.
It's
Yeah.
like Taylor Swift doing like
Taylor's
Taylor's version. This is
Yeah.
Roger's
Yeah,
version.
and
And
it
trust me,
sucks ass.
it can stay Roger's version and
Yeah.
nothing else.
I think before we get started on the songs, we've set the tone a lot, but I think this quote, it just needs to be kept in mind with everything we're going to talk about. This is Roger Waters. I wrote Dark Side of the Moon. Let's get rid of all this we crap. Of course we were a band. There were 4 of us. We all contributed. But it's my project and I wrote it. So blah. This is from that Telegraph piece. The interviewer puts in parentheses, Waters, who wrote the album's lyrics, is credited with composing 3 of its 10 tracks and co-writing music for 2 others.
Nice.
With that, speak to me.
Yes, Roger Waters, Speak to Me.
Sorry, free 4.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
From Obscured by Clouds.
Did you catch that the first time
I
you
did.
listened to that? I did not.
Yeah, because I heard that. I was like, oh shit, Obscured by Clouds. Like, I guess it's a cool reference. I guess it's kind of setting the tone for like the reflection on Pink Floyd's career is like a little reference to it.
Not Pink Floyd's.
Roger Waters.
Roger
Waters'
Waters.
career.
Yeah, Roger Waters'
Let's
career, I
get
should
that
say.
straight too.
Yes.
I didn't notice that actually, but that's a cool little
Yeah,
tidbit, I guess.
and like that's like his song on that album, so
Right.
it makes sense.
yeah.
I re-listened to Obscured by Clouds yesterday. What a weird song.
Because it's the one about his dad dying. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I had listened to this a little bit, so this was kind of the main version of that song.
Yeah.
And when you go back to Obscured by Clouds, it's like bouncy.
Exactly. It's
a
fun.
weird.
Yeah, it's
vibe.
a lot of tonal dissonance, but I think that's the point.
That's Roger Waters.
Exactly. To a T. But yeah, Roger Waters Speak to Me does not hold a candle, nor do any of these tracks to the original Dark Side of the Moon. Let's just get that right out of the way.
Yeah.
No,
Everyone would agree on that. You can-
Every single track on here is just such a disservice to the original source material.
Yeah, I wrote one of these. I forget for which song, but one of them like
Pisses you off?
no, like one of the notes I had was actually similar to the Suicide Silence note of it sounds like someone's dad trying to make
Yes.
their own
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon.
Like a bar band covering it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wrote for
That's
one of
what
the
whole
songs.
thing
Same.
feels like, and I forget which song I wrote that for, but it's like the whole album feels that way. I will say this was my first time actually listening to the album. So when he just started speaking to me, I was so thrown off that I was like, what the fuck are we doing?
Dark Side.
So, like, kind of similar to you, like, I had listened to the album passively when it came out, like, around that time. Or maybe, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I might have only have listened to Money.
I see.
Them, Roger Waters' Money.
Oh, yeah, because that was a single.
I think I only listened to
a
that.
minute of it. Yeah.
I think I only listened to that. So that actually makes more sense as to why I don't really recall it that much for good reason. Yeah, no, upon hearing this, I would like to set the tone. I was in my car the first time I heard this track and like, first of all, his usage of like construction noises and stuff and car crashes all across this album.
The studio imagery. It's very amateur.
It's very amateur and distracting. And being in my car and at some points driving in my car and hearing all this shit was not a fun experience.
Yeah.
So Mr. Waters, thank you.
Yeah. I was in the airport.
Oh no.
Bummer.
I had told you prior that I was like, you know what? I have a lot of connecting flights. I have a lot of time in airports waiting to get to my destination for work. And I told you, I was like, the bummer side of this is I'm going to have to download this album in order to listen to it on like my flights. And boy, do I fucking regret downloading it.
Data I'll never get back.
Yeah, it was it just was so nothing to me.
Yeah.
And the only other note I really had about the song Speak to Me in general was like there was just a random unnecessary buildup that made no fucking sense to the song whatsoever.
The tone that Roger Waters takes on this album is really strange. It's almost like a grim fairy tale narrator where it's like super ominous and dark for no fucking reason. It's really strange.
I think what he was probably trying to do was that, like, I'm going to subvert the people who listened to this and then went on to be war profiteers, which I can't imagine that number is more than 40. I don't know. But to what Ben was saying, when I first listened to this, I didn't even notice the free four thing because I was too distracted by him talking.
Yes.
And I texted you right after this. I hadn't listened to any of his solo stuff, which is, I don't know how I knew that I wouldn't gel with most of it. Because I love Pink Floyd. I listened to The Wall at like 14 and it just blew me away. And I listened to all their stuff and I just never was like, oh, I should check out their solo stuff, which is something I do for most other bands that I really enjoy. Before coming in today, I have listened to, with the exception of the opera, every solo Roger Waters album. We can talk about that after.
Okay.
But yeah, it's weird. And I think that's how a lot of people probably came into this because Roger Waters' discography exists in this whole other separate universe than Pink Floyd's.
Right.
And so you get started on this and you're like, okay, you know, some modern production. And then this, you know, how old was he when he recorded this? 79, I guess?
Yeah, probably 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s. And it's just this like
droning acoustic guitar.
Yeah. And it's just a weird intro.
Yeah.
Though a good one for this album because it's pretty much what you
It
get.
sets the
tone.
fucking tone. Big time.
Straight into Breathe.
Roger Waters is pretty.
I was
Yeah, don't forget that.
one of the things I just wanted to say. I do not like, and this I guess is more of just an album note. I don't like the fact that Roger Waters, this is the closest thing he'll ever do to ASMR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like-
dangerously close to that line.
It's really teetering.
Like, and I don't, just whatever sensations I was feeling upon hearing his voice, both in my car stereo and in my headphones, it was not pleasant.
No.
well, in the,
May I?
yeah, go for it.
And when I was listening to this, I was like, I haven't listened to his live stuff. I know he performs these songs live. Good God, is this how it sounded for the past like 20 years?
Like arenas, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so I go back to the 2 live albums he has. They sound normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
crazy.
wait, what happened here? And so when he re-recorded Comfortably Numb, he slowed it down. He had this sort of like muddy feeling under the song. He brought it to what I can only imagine, because this is an infamous fight, what his original vision of the song was in
Gotcha.
79.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole thing sounds like. I think there is a part of this that is Roger Waters maybe didn't always want it to sound like this, but has a preference for this sound. One of his
Yeah.
favorite albums is Plastic Ono Band.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. And also music from the Big Pink. I know I've read quotes from him praising both of those. And those...
He also praised Suicide Silence, his self-titled album. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, stick around. There's actually a little reference to it on this album.
Then give. Yeah.
To give.
A fun little podcast interruption. We got a little bug friend.
Oh, we got a bug friend in the
Yeah,
studio.
we got a bug friend.
Remember how you mentioned how people haven't intruded the studio that often? I guess we failed on that one.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
I don't feel safe anymore.
Guys,
you
question of
want
the
me to-
week. Name it.
Where was I?
Something about Breathe.
We were
Roger
talking about
Waters'
Breathe.
Breathe.
Right.
It's not good.
Well, I was talking about John Lennon and the band and how those were cited as influences
Influences.
for him. And so I think those are sounds that he was trying to go for that the other band members weren't interested in. And infamously, Comfortably Numb was not to his liking.
Yeah.
Him and Gilmore had a whole spat
Yeah,
about that.
compromise. Mhm.
We nearly didn't have a cigar.
Yeah.
I mean, we did, but he was like, I want it to be serious and all this stuff. And Gilmore was like, can we get Roy Harper on this? And it's a fun track.
Yeah,
and
it's a good one.
It's a great like bit of levity after Welcome to the Machine.
Yeah.
It was the right decision. And so I think if you look back, there are all these times where Waters probably wanted to go in this direction. And if you look at his solo career, he did
Yeah.
go in this direction.
All the time.
And now he can bring it back to Dark Side. And so now you have an album where in the original, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It's produced perfectly.
And that's the problem. Like, that's a big thing about this quote unquote redux that I have a problem is that it sounds too perfect. Granted, the music on Breathe, Roger's version, is fine.
Yeah.
I actually think it's great.
That
Like,
goes for like almost all this album.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are definitely points
Yeah.
where it's like, this is fucking dumb.
You go first.
Well, I was just going to say, the music is really
It's serviceable.
well done. It's
Yeah.
serviceable. I wrote that it would work as an alternate version.
Yes.
Very, very well. But his voice ruins it.
And also putting it like in the lens of Dark Side, I mean, even though it's a different version, it's just you can't help but compare it.
Yeah,
It's just like
Well, it has
yeah.
the same name.
Yeah,
It's on the
it's the
same,
same melodies,
album, the
yeah.
same melodies, in the same track order. Like, it
Yeah.
is supposed to be Dark Side, and it falls so flat in
it,
comparison.
it just can't compare.
If it's its own thing,
Yes.
it's great. But you can't
Slap the Dark Side name on there.
you can't help to compare because that's what it is. It's just a comparison.
It's just a neutered version of the album,
It's a watered down version of the album.
one might say.
And I think
that was a good pause.
Sorry, a dolphin just entered the studio.
Oh shit! How'd that happen?
There's bugs and dolphins. Oh god.
the bunker is underwater. Remember the whale?
That is true.
The whale was
There was a whale.
Yeah. No, like it's really watered down. And then also the thing about it is like, yes, while the instrumentals all across the album, with the exception of one, sound like pretty decent.
Yeah.
They're also largely just uninvolved
No.
in terms of
Yeah.
pacing and momentum.
Yes.
Like there's it's just like ambience with talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's all it
sometimes
is.
singing. And sometimes background vocals that I have a lot of issue with, like on Roger Waters' Breathe, because they sound robotic and synthetic,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
hate them.
Thank
Uh-huh.
you. That was my big point for the whole album is you have Roger's voice, which is also, believe it or not, very processed.
Yeah.
And it still sounds like shit. And then you have these background singers that sound so
Yeah.
perfect
Yes.
to the point where it's like, it's not real. And when you put these two things together, Roger's imperfect voice with such perfection of voices, it is the most jarring juxtaposition
Yeah.
you can get with music.
Which
The contrast is palpable.
Yes.
there are albums that I that I'm willing to forgive that. An album that I'm willing to sort of look past that, and probably the opposite example of this album of how to go back to something and do it the best way possible is Brian Wilson Presents Smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because that one was kind of necessary because that did not get to the point of
Like an official release.
an official
Yeah.
release. And so Wilson and Parks went back, and with some help of people who were into the bootlegging scene, were able to complete that. And Brian Wilson's older, and they still want him to sing lead vocals. So there is this sort of dissonance between Brian Wilson at however old he was after the life he had lived, and then these younger singers who are probably like classically trained. They probably went to like, I'm not sure, conservatory, but music's like clearly very well trained.
Talented.
But that's in service of an album that's doing something like really unique, both musically and conceptually. This isn't that. His voice is just, he can sing higher, and he places his voice at this level that the rest of the mix revolves around.
Yep.
And it sounds weird. I wish I could put some better descriptors to this.
Allow me. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I wrote, it sounds like he's trying to do an impression of Damon Albarn.
Huh. Yeah.
I can see that. In terms of the mix, it is very front and center, though. It kind of like either intentionally or unintentionally, like just showing his ego, where it's like everything orbits around
Revolves
him.
around
Yeah,
him.
in the
Yeah.
mix.
That was another thing in that Telegraph piece. It was talking, maybe it was that or something else. Someone was talking about the fact that like Roger Waters tries to come across as, very philanthropic, very selfless. And there are ways which he seems to be, but with something like this, and there's a track that I really want to get back to this on, there is an ego present throughout this entire thing that you just, it's impossible to steer away from.
Yeah.
And a lot of good art and good music that people appreciate comes from people with big egos. That's kind of the way it is. But there are ways that you can either ignore that, or it becomes woven into it in a way that is profound in some way.
Or it comes in a way where it's almost justified because you listen to the music and you're like, well, they might have an ego, but damn, that's a fucking great song.
They got the chops to back
like
it up.
it almost is like justified in a way. And for Roger Waters, it would have applied if we're talking about
Pink Floyd.
70s
Yeah.
Roger
Yes.
Waters with Pink Floyd.
Yes.
Roger on his own.
He's just
Yeah.
in a completely different place to where the ego is so
Unwarranted.
unwarranted,
Yeah.
not allowed in a way. It's like
Pathetic.
very,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. It's
spiteful.
pathetic.
Yeah, because it's a vanity project at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the points you make exactly are like correct, especially at the place he is now. Dark Side, I mean, it's still able to be to touch millions of people. You know what I mean? But the thing is, it's also had its day for years and years and years.
Before we get to On the Run, I think the point about the lyrics on the original album is that whether it was that he was shy or the other band members didn't want too many lyrics, it's very concise.
Yes.
There's a reason that people
Yeah.
connect with that album, and it's because unlike a lot of other prog rock, the lyrics go straight for the heart instead of the head.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
And this is doing the
The
exact
complete
opposite. That's also the reason I really just don't vibe with Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking.
I see,
is I
yeah.
feel like it's someone at points lecturing me about their dreams.
Yeah.
And I should like that. There's a part of that album where I'm like, why don't I like this? And then I listen to it. I'm like, oh.
And that's a discussion for another
yeah.
time.
But anyway,
Roger
Onto-
Waters on the run.
Roger Waters
Roger's
on
version.
the run. If I may have the proverbial floor here for a second.
Please.
Out of any track on this album, this is one that I have a very specific point with. So the original On the Run, maybe aside from Revolution 9, is probably the most experimental song that like everyone knows because
Yeah.
of how well known the album around it is. It's this unique, weird piece of early sequencer technology and like sound collage. And I mean, trying to remake it is one thing, and the arrangement on here is fine. But like, there is a legacy to this song. I mean, I really like 90s IDM. Aphex Twin, you can hear like remnants of it. The KLF's Chill Out is On the Run. It's constantly sampled in that. And so this song is dealing with that sort of like strange legacy of this track. But it's weird, right? Because like
God, Evan, you look stressed with what you're about to say.
Why does he reference pilot wings?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't get it. Like,
What?
we're at the point of the album where it comes up multiple times where Roger just goes on rants
Yes.
over top of the music, and like they're purposeless, at least in terms of for the listener. I'm sure they're very important to Roger, but he's not saying anything. He's just rambling.
But like, I mean, pilot wings. He doesn't say flight simulator. He doesn't say airplane
Yeah, he
video game.
specifically
He
mentions
says
pilot wings.
Pilot wings
Video
like
game.
video game.
Yeah.
Now, if you, the audience, are unfamiliar, Pilot Wings is a glorified tech demo that Nintendo sells every once in a while because it's Nintendo. They don't change. It just brings up the question, why does he know what Pilot Wings is?
That's a good question.
He mentions a circus. Is that specifically referencing the first map from Pilot Wing 64? We will never know. I am genuinely a fan of this series.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I listened to this, there's a line in Money that caught my ear that just completely distracted me. A second listen, I heard this and was just like, what is going on?
Yeah. It's just like directionless, like babble that he's just like spouting.
And he admitted this, he just woke up and
Yeah, because it was like a dream or something. He was like recounting. Yeah.
I mean,
pros and cons too.
yeah. And I mean, the short of this is like, he's not Neutral Milk Hotel. He can't just like,
He can't do that.
He doesn't have that sort of ability to like take these weird,
Like absurd.
Yeah.
And like make them like digestible or like important.
and put emotion behind it. Like, I think the idea here is some sort of like light and dark thing, but I don't know. It's just weird. The arrangement under it is fine. Honestly, if you cut the vocals out, I would say this is a neat interpretation of On the Run. Kind of like with Breathe. Like,
I'm a little indifferent. I think, especially towards the end of this song, it just feels like some weird club thing.
I said pinball music.
And it's just so like...
maybe that's a reflection of my own taste.
We did confirm in your first appearance that you do have a fascination with pinballs.
Yeah.
But it almost just felt like that it was like trying to be a club banger at like a rave. And I was like, this is fucking...
Club Classic by Charlie XCX.
Oh,
It
hell
just
yeah.
felt weird as shit towards the end.
But I will defend that because this was like one of the first things using a sequencer. I can understand how it's like, hey, if we're revisiting this 50 years later, where has that technology gone? That is giving the song more credit than it's
Way
worth.
because it's not
Yeah.
trying.
I'm
that.
playing devil's advocate here, but
Yeah. Just going on the babbling. At this point, I was like, I don't want to listen to an audiobook.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
That's not what I signed up to listen to, and that's literally what this song in particular felt like. And
There's more of that on this album.
that's what I
Yeah.
mean. It doesn't stop. It just like every song I was like, when is he just gonna like either sing the song normally, which never happened, or when is he going to just let the music be the music, which happens infrequently.
which, if you know Waters' solo discography, makes perfect sense.
yeah.
If you're coming at this from knowing Pink Floyd's discography,
It makes
it's
no
really
sense.
jarring.
Yeah, it's very jarring.
That is very true. 3 things. It's so funny you said audiobook because the first thing I wrote, I am reading, or I guess listening to this audiobook. Do you guys know Stephen Fry?
Yeah.
British comedian and writer. He does this like book. I think I was telling you about this the other day. He does this book called Mythos. Like I forget when he released it, but it's basically him retelling like the Greek myths in like a kind of a funny way. And the fun thing about it is, as soon as he started talking, for some reason on this song in particular, he sounded like really close to Stephen Fry, just reading about the Greek myths. So that was just a weird thing altogether. But in terms of like the talking in general, I've mentioned numerous times, I don't like it when I'm listening to music and artists talk to me. Like, I don't know why it's like, even if it's like for a few seconds, I just kind of get like pissed off.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It depends on like what the vibe is. You know what I mean?
What about the end of Phil Spector's Christmas album?
That's one of the only instances where I encourage. No, I'm just kidding. But no, like, no. But what I was gonna say was,
Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Spector.
No! Hi there, Phil Spector here.
oh my god. So
That was close.
Thank God. AJ, thank you for saving us.
No problem, man.
What I was gonna say was like I hated it when Dolly Parton did it for like a few seconds.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one? There were a couple from this season. There were actually quite a few from this season.
There was a few. There's, of course, You Want to See Someone Sexy on Post Malone.
That was one of them.
Suicide Silence, I guess you could kind of contribute to that.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there definitely was another one. It's blanking on me now. This entire album is just talking pieces.
Yep.
Which is part of the reason why, for me at least, I can't speak for the rest of you, it did not go over well with Matt Glass. I was not a fan of it.
Official review.
Official review from
Yeah.
Matt. It did not. Well, and the other part of it too is like there is a way like when you have talking sections in a song or whatever, there's a certain way you mix it so it doesn't feel invasive. Literally, this whole album feels invasive.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah.
me feel uncomfortable.
It's super close.
The way they mixed it is like an audiobook, very bass heavy, very present and in your face, as if he is literally
there.
right
Yeah.
in front of you, like literally right, like if this is an ear, literally just like, so anyway. So that's the biggest, most jarring thing about this album.
And I think one last thing that I'll say, I'm so sorry, Evan. I think the thing that is just so annoying about it is like Pink Floyd is known for utilizing just the full frequency, like range of frequencies in all their music, especially utilizing like bassy subharmonics and shit. So it's like having just the Dark Side name slapped on this, where that utilizes just all audio so well, for lack of better terms. And it's like, what the fuck
It's
are we even
insulting.
doing? Like,
Yeah.
your project. Like, give me a fucking break.
Yeah. But he's got to be talking directly to you because you listened to Dark Side and became a warmonger.
Yeah, this is our fault, guys. We did this ourselves.
It's our own mistakes.
I don't know how to describe this, but this is a vibe I get from this album, and this is something I hate in media in general, I guess. Not just talking to you, but this sort of philosophy of like, we're punishing the class for one
Yeah.
kid's mistakes. Like, we didn't.
That's the minority that like that took Dark Side that way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just, I do not understand Roger Waters' head. I don't think any of us do.
I don't think anyone ever will.
Or
want
would want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just an album of strange decisions. Moving
Speaking
on.
of which,
Oh, I think it's time we move on.
Oh, damn. I was just going to say, this is the
damn
first instance of the studio imagery being just so fucking annoying.
yeah, this
and
has the car
distracting.
crash jump scare
Yeah,
there.
when I was driving, I did not appreciate that. So, again, thank you, Mr. Waters. I appreciate it.
But yeah, I do believe it is time to move on, gang, to Roger Waters'
I
time.
made that joke first.
No, I honestly don't have notes for this. Congrats, you made time on Dramamine. Like,
Yeah,
good
exactly.
job.
Literally. Like
there's
nothing inherently bad about it.
Yeah.
No.
Does this one have the strings?
Yes.
Yes.
It is
yeah.
okay. Those strings, at least to me, sound like it's in French. There's no way I'm going to pronounce this without sounding like an asshole. Histoire de Melody Nelson.
Yeah.
It sounds like those arrangements, which is a weird vibe. I do not want to be thinking about that
Yeah.
album.
When I'm thinking about Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I feel like once again, this song specifically kind of just brings up the fatal flaw of this album, where just musically it just can't hold a candle. Like you take away all like the richness, the lushness of the instrumentals, and replace it with watered down, neuter, just acoustic guitars and like organs. Like they're serviceable, but like it's just like Roger Waters. It's like he hates Dark Side, so it has to be different, or it has to while also being the same.
No. He likes his lyrics.
Yes, he doesn't like anything else.
Yeah, when this song came on, the first thing I wrote, because the way I write notes is I write it as I'm listening.
Yeah.
So a lot of the notes that I write down, it's almost like a story, but then when I try to present them, I try to speak just like what I was thinking at the time. I literally wrote right before the song started. I swear, if this is a song that's just 7 minutes of him talking to me, I will be
I'm gonna
very,
riot.
very upset. But taking all of your points, if I get rid of the comparisons, this is a decent song. It's not bad. Like, this was the only song on the whole album where I was like, I could see myself visiting it maybe, because it's just kind of a nice... The only thing that I was like, I could see where this might work is the lyrics change
Yeah.
Like they're the same, but the meanings change because of his age,
Yes.
because of the reflection, because of when the album came out versus what he's doing now. And in that instance, I do find it cool.
I agree.
I think that's really neat how like the whole meaning of the song changes because of that. I just don't understand why he sounds out of breath every fucking song.
He missed the starting gun.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. I mean, like you said, it's kind of just like it's fine.
Yeah.
It's serviceable. It does not hold a candle to the original in any way, shape, or form.
And let me say, I looked up some positive reviews on this album because especially if you go to his YouTube channel or Reddit, you can see a lot of people who are
really enjoyed it.
supportive.
Yeah.
very supportive. Also, they released like a super deluxe edition of this. That's a
Oh,
whole
thank
other,
God.
That's a whole other conversation. He has kind of made some money on this. Back to the ego.
Money. Sorry.
But even in the good reviews, it always starts with, well, it doesn't hold a candle to the original. But, and I think that's telling.
That's very
Yeah.
telling.
Even in 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 reviews,
Yeah.
it's like, well, it's not the original. Anyway.
The spoken word's annoying. It's just rumbling and ambience. There's barely any musicianship, I feel. His vocals don't have any life in them at all. Fuck this song.
I think the only thing I will agree with you, I do like the concept of like the reflection, and I think it does work really well specifically on this track, musically especially. Having the kind of like slowed down version of Time really emphasizes that point. But there's a better avenue to do that.
Yeah,
which is not
absolutely.
Dark Side of the Moon.
Well, and
yeah.
it just goes back to this just sounds like a cover, and he fucking helped write these songs.
Yeah.
And yet they still don't even sound like it was from him.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
it's in that sense, it is very disheartening.
But with all that said, shall I move on to Roger Waters, The Great Gig in the Sky?
This has no right being 5 minutes. He keeps pronouncing, Kendall is candle, and it pisses me off.
Yeah.
I think this is the song that I might have the most different opinion on. I think if he was going to do this concept, this is the only song that actually takes what he is in his current form good at and brings it to a level that takes it in such a different direction to the original that it's not even like you can compare them. Like it's the same
Melody,
concept of
yeah.
the song, but like it's strange to me that he's offering this reflection on someone who admittedly he was friends with, but not like a core part of his career. I think the memorial he gives for this, I think he was a poet, is touching. I think it's a good reflection. To be honest, if there's any song I was going to revisit on here, this would be it because it's just unique. And I think it shows his current strengths as much as possible. But yeah, it's like, if this is the direction you took this, when I get to Us and Them, I kind of have another point on this. Like, it would be more interesting if he kind of did this the whole thing, if he kept the instrumentals, like, just didn't sing.
Yeah.
I think it would be a much more interesting concept if he was like, okay, I'm just going to do a spoken word piece over this as opposed to this hybrid
Yeah.
we have where you kind of get the worst of both worlds.
I will say I'm probably on the different side of the court with this one. This is the most anger-fueled song I had, where I was so mad about what he did with this. He took what is, in my opinion, one of the best Pink Floyd songs, and in my opinion, made it one of the worst on this album due to overprocessed vocals from the background singers, trying to recreate what was already perfect and falling so fucking flat on it that this song was just front to back an embarrassment, and I just was so angry the whole time. I just couldn't fucking believe that this was the rendition that he chose. I don't know. The spoken passages, fuck that. I don't want to fucking hear him talk, period. It takes me out of the listening experience in general. Like, that's not what I want to hear. The only note that, like, I keep looking at is I'm surprised with how he can make an interesting song sound so uninteresting. But the Rip Donald Hall line that he says felt like a rapper shout out. Like, shout out to my boy Donald Hall, Rip. Rest in peace, homie. Like, that was crazy.
Poet laureate of the United States.
Jesus.
That's all.
I think I'm more in the camp with Ben, where hearing this, I was not very happy because I like Great Gig in the Sky is such like a perfect song. It's like such a great example of just pure emotion, like raw emotion without like saying anything like specifically. But I do appreciate your perspective a lot because I didn't think of it that way, where it's just the most unique on this album.
This is the only song that really grew on me with multiple listens. And I think it's more the philosophy in my case that it's like, yeah, the original song is perfect.
Yeah.
Try something completely different.
And that he
As
did,
opposed to
yeah.
a lot of these other songs where it's, like
Time
I said,
but
like
slower.
half measures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main things I kind of took away, I feel like if he kind of has some like vocal stylings here, like he's like humming a little bit in like a bit of a soulful way, but I really feel like Pink Floyd / Roger Waters, they never really came off as like a very like vocally like soulful or like riffy act. So listening to this felt kind of like odd to listen to. I also just like it just feels like I'm listening to like a movie soundtrack before a film. Like I'm listening to some like OST or whatever before like a film, and I'm like missing everything because as he's speaking it to me, it's not
It's
nothing's
not
clicking.
sticking, yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of birds in this album. Pink Floyd, Pink Floyd, and Roger Waters they like birds.
They do.
They like adding birds to things. One thing I will give the album credit for. I think the synths sound really nice. Like whatever tone they have, like in the left channel at one point. I genuinely want to know what they recorded it on because it's really, really nice, like ghostly warbling kind of synth. But also, at the same time, I feel the same way as like mainly your criticisms, Ben and AJ. Just that like compared to the original, it does such a disservice. Also, fuck these airplane noises, dude. Like, oh my God.
I think if like I had something nice to say, I think the drum production on this track specifically is pretty decent. I kind of like how it's kind of muffled, almost like muted, because it does kind of relate to just like the concept of death and like what this song is all about, just like stuff fading in the background or like a light going out. So like that's neat. I don't really care for the slowed in reverb like vocals of Great King in the Sky. It just sounds like gimmicky, almost offensive.
That would be my least favorite part of the track.
Yeah.
I think it would have been more interesting if they did some like different synth work than that.
Yeah.
I think the idea was it to be more of like a quiet and resonant voice, and I think they missed out on the resonant part. But yeah.
Is spite just like, is that enough of a motivator where it's like you do such a disservice to keeping up the sonic integrity of what your whole career is based off of? I don't know. Just that shit pisses me off a little
Question
bit.
of the week.
Yeah, if you want to diagram that too, be my guest. I don't think I could.
And speaking of spite,
Oh boy. Roger Waters money.
Easily, if not the biggest, one of the biggest disservices to the original album. This track fucking blows.
Yeah, it
This
sucks.
was the hardest I laughed at the whole album.
I remember driving on 95 when listening to this the first time, and he just goes, "Welcome to hell," and I lost it.
Just Lincoln Financial.
Oh, that shit was right.
I was in front of the airport.
I mean, we literally are in hell on this album, so it makes sense.
There was nothing about this song that was like I couldn't take it seriously.
No.
Like right when he money. I was like, I literally was just like, hey, yo, chick,
Yeah.
get the fuck away from me, grandpa. What the fuck?
I smell your breath.
But back to what I was saying, I think in some theoretical world where Roger Waters in 1973 was the only person working on this album, he didn't have three other very talented musicians around him. This is how it probably would have sounded. He has this weird tone thing where, like, if he wants a song to be satirical, it also has to be serious, except when it doesn't. And then you get, like, Fletcher Memorial Home.
That's a whole other discussion.
Which I kind of like that song, but not for the
Yeah.
reasons he probably wanted.
I do have a question. So there's like this weird orchestra riff.
At 2 minutes and 30 seconds?
That's not in the original version, right?
No.
Okay.
It definitely is not. I have
Ruined by
specific-
Tenacious D because of the
Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because one of my notes was, so when I wrote this, at this point I was really tired of listening to this album, so I didn't try and dissect it, but I said, there's no musical explanation, there's no theoretical explanation that will change my mind about this. That was the stupidest addition to this fucking song. I don't care if it had a purpose, I don't care if it had a deeper meaning. It was bad. Just bad.
Yeah.
It was so fucking dumb and off-putting. I know exactly what you're talking about because I literally had it in my notes saying nothing will change my mind.
I think this one was the track that I would like cover band kind of came to mind for me, but like not just any cover band. It's like a cover band like from like a nursing home, because like Roger Waters has no fucking energy on this track.
No.
Money is like one of like the highest points on Dark Side. It's super bombastic, musically rich, and it's just gone here.
Yeah.
Like it's just this slowed down, repetitious like song that's the husk of what it used to be. Also, for some reason, when I was looking on Genius, Travis Scott was in the recommended artists, which I thought was kind of funny.
Speaking of money,
Check out Travis Scott.
But yeah, this track is just such a letdown, and like it's not even like trying something different to really warrant the concept. It's just a watered down version of Money.
and I think this is the only point in the album where he even gets close. That's not the right word, but it's the closest thing I have right now to getting to that, like, this is for the people who appropriated and heard Dark Side and didn't get the right message. But it's like, to be honest, and this is a criticism of his lyrics, the original Money is like a pretty shallow song.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, it's fun. We all like it. It's not that deep.
No, it's just don't be greedy.
If you want the criticism on like the industry and stuff, Wish You Were Here is that album. Money is just, I mean, they didn't have it at that point, so they're like, that would be nice, but it's also evil, as opposed to the next album where they're like, welcome to the machine. And so trying to course
Make it
correct.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Get back, Jack. Hands off my pie.
I will say, on a musical perspective, the iconic bass line from the original is present, but they double it with a bass in the piano.
Yeah.
And that's so off-putting. I hated that because they mixed it so that the piano was louder. Maybe it was to make it more pronounced, but that is not, as a listener, what I would want to hear. Like, when I think of that iconic bass line, I want to hear the bass. I don't want anything overshadowing it. And that's exactly what the piano did, and that just rubbed me the wrong way. So,
Well, now I really want to hear this with the original bass line just like inserted into it. Money.
the last note I had was comedy peak was, and I keep laughing at this, how much you giving away? None. Like I was
He
laughing.
thought he had come up with the best line
He
there.
thought he ate with that, and it's so fucking funny. No. It's so fucking good. Yeah.
Shall I move on?
I think so.
Next up, we have Roger Waters, Us and Them.
I really like
Another-
this. I really
this
like.
bit.
I thought you were just gonna say that
No.
at the beginning to be
Oh,
like,
no.
You got to clarify still,
gotta
of course.
Keep in mind, this is like, if not his favorite, one of AJ's favorite albums of all time.
This is my
That
literal
he-
favorite album
that
of all
he- that
time.
he redid
Oh, the Redux, thank
out
God.
Of
Yeah,
spite.
of course.
Yeah.
yeah. Why do you think I picked it?
Two 7-minute tracks that are equally as slow is crazy.
I know, dude. It
It's
sucks.
absolutely crazy. And this is where the backing vocals are really noticeable of how bad they are. Because, like, oh, God. The instrumental's good enough for what it is.
Yeah.
I say again.
Yes.
But, like, in terms of the song's actual sections, this is where I got really annoyed with how incredibly boring this is.
I think, like, of all the tracks on this album, I think Us and Them could benefit from Roger Waters' style in terms of, like, musically at least, because it's such, like, a tender, intimate song, and, like, that's what this whole style is going for. But Roger's vocal delivery, like, really fucks it up.
Every song.
Like, the mix of spoken word, like, with some really just harsh emphasis on certain words and just very flat, monotone singing, it just takes away all the personality from Us and Them. And, like, this is the song that, like, he's, I guess, trying to, like, hammer the point in home, but he's not doing enough with it.
What a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a complete, like, okay, here's the other quote from that article. Well, Nick never pretended, but Gilmore and Rick, they can't write songs. They've nothing to say. They're not artists. They have no ideas, not a single one between them. They never had, and that drives them crazy. This is after Wright died.
Oh my god.
This is from 23.
Yeah.
Like,
Fuck.
okay, this song is about how the petty grievances between us are worth nothing, and it is better, like, on a cosmic scale for us to put aside our differences and get along.
Yeah.
From Roger Waters. How, like, what I wanted to say about Great Gig in the Sky, if he feels this sort of sympathy and, like, compassion towards the death of this guy who, from interviews, he was friends with, but, you know, interacted with sparingly. My God,
I know,
man.
that's fucked
like,
up. Yeah.
You're
That's
still holding this grudge on. I don't get it. I
just
don't
gross.
get it. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? The crazy thing was, I was watching a bunch of videos of him talking before this. He actually gives Wright credit for the piano lick in this, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because if you know anything about Pink Floyd, Roger Waters saying anything nice to Rick is
A rarity.
rarity.
Yeah.
But again, he said that after he died. God, I feel so bad for Richard Wright. Like, once I started getting into the history of the band and how
it's
they record
rough.
those albums, it's just like, why? I mean, Waters was a perfectionist, and he took it out on this guy who was doing great work and was just like shy. He just didn't have the sort of personality that Gilmore and Waters had. And,
Yeah.
I mean, Mason just.
Mason was just along for the ride. He was just having a good time.
But man, it's hard. This one is so hard for me to listen to because it's just like, you missed the point.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You wrote this and you still missed the point.
Yeah, and you still act like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a technical, like a production perspective of this, the delay on his voice forces listeners to just hear his imperfections even more, which I find ironic. But also, there's this really, I don't know if anyone else caught this, there's this really weird gate thing going on where every time, whether it's just us and them, like on the original, you hear the full word, but on this, it's like us and them.
Just cut off.
Like, it sounds cut off, and then the delay also captures that. I don't know if that was intentional, but it's like glaringly obvious to me, to where I was like, this is a weird way of doing this. With that said, I'll agree with Matt that musically, I actually didn't mind this one. In fact, I thought the transition into the chorus musically was nice. And quite frankly, it was the only song that he sounded like he was trying to sing on, but it comes off as, I don't know, like, it doesn't.
I guess I'd agree with you there. I'm trying to think of what else. He is trying, but he's using that same register.
It just doesn't feel.
It doesn't
it
feel like
feels
he's trying.
old. It just feels old. That, like, old and like spent. Like, that's just like, it sounds like he's trying, but it's just so just.
Which isn't inherently a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. Black Star, like,
right.
I mean, very different situation, right? But
Very,
like,
but it's a
It
good
could work,
example.
yeah.
like, there are albums I like, and there are great albums where you don't have to be in your 20s or 30s or whatever to like have good vocal delivery. Like, there are artists who have been this age and made really like emotionally touching works that also don't come off as like
Hypocritical.
off-putting
or an asshole.
or yeah.
Next up, we have Roger Waters, Any Color You Like.
This is my least favorite on the
Oh,
album.
I can understand why.
Oh my
Flavorless,
God.
no true feeling. The organ is trying its best, but having the track sound almost identical to the previous one for a rehash is definitely a choice.
Look, I know why he put words over Great Gig. I know why he put words over
Speak to Me. Or On the
Speak to
Run.
Me and On the
Yeah.
Run. Right. Dude, just like
Yeah.
let this one play.
I know, man.
And in interviews, he's like, well, there's all these meanings behind it. I'm like, this was the song on the album that comes after like the cosmic, like, let's find peace. And then it's like, okay, have some, like,
Yeah,
let's have some
let's jam.
fun.
Yeah.
Because Pink Floyd was a band that jammed.
Yeah.
And with
We're not allowed.
with the exception of some parts on Amused to Death, which is why I like that album, Waters doesn't vibe with that.
Yeah.
And I missed the Ukraine-Russia color flag thing before he pointed it out. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't like this even more now.
Exactly.
And like, he's trying to be fun with it, but it's so weird. He's like, like, what if we remade Dark Side of the Moon? Like, what I wrote the thing that it reminded me of was Sabrina Carpenter ad-libbing on the end of Nonsense, where she's like, this isn't making it on the album. And like, she can pull that off because she's charming.
Yeah, and not a 70-year-old man.
I don't know. You know what? No,
That definitely helps.
There's
you know?
a 70-year-old man who could pull this off, and his
Roger
name
Waters.
is not Roger
Yeah.
Waters. I think my brain is just broken. Any Color You Like might be my most listened to track from
it's
Dark
fucking
Side.
good. It's
And-
very palatable. It's great.
Yeah, it just like it hits the ears nice.
And this doesn't.
And this doesn't, man.
It's just-
this one makes me angry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it's a complete bastardization of the original.
I must have been like really fed up with the album at this point because the only note I had was I will never listen to this album again. That was literally the only note I had for this.
That's the
song.
proper takeaway, I think.
What were you gonna say, AJ?
I mean, they're pretty much just a complete bastardization of the original. I like one of their like just best instrumental tracks. Like the trippy psychedelic instrumentals are replaced with just a slogging blues beat. There's like more meaningless narration that did not age well whatsoever, and it's just tongue in cheek for no reason. This album is just so fucking confused. It's
really
just a
is.
mess.
Like I said before, the organ's trying its best. The bass, I say, is like the only thing about this track that I genuinely could come close to liking. The weird like fucking percussion that was like panning between like the channels and then just kind of like stayed in the right side. Just dumb. It sounds like if you just went to a matinee at some restaurant and they said, give us some mood music like Pink Floyd, but nothing too loud. I don't know why they talk like that. Anything you like.
God, imagine sitting down to a nice dinner and they're like, and for one night only, Roger Waters. And you're like, oh my God, the lyricist and songwriter from Pink Floyd, this is going to be phenomenal. And you're eating your spaghetti and you just hear, money. And he's right next to you.
Yeah. The thing is, there's no stage for him. He actually just like, you think he's on a stage, so you turn away and you're like, oh, this will be great. You turn away and all of a sudden,
He's right in your face.
It's not.
I'm gonna take a slice of your pie.
Not a full.
takes your food. You're just like, Roger, give it back, bro.
Yeah, not a full like speaker.
Welcome to hell.
You gonna give any of that?
None.
It gets me every time.
In this scenario, he doesn't have like multiple speakers. He just has like a single speaker.
Yeah. It's like a fucking karaoke machine.
Has a guitar. Yeah, exactly.
No one else. It's just him and some backing tracks on a speaker.
Like fucking MIDI Dark Side of the Moon.
And he literally just turns, presses a button, and something starts, and he just goes, bow, bow, no. It's like a Wesley Willis bit. He programs. And then he just goes on these tangents, and it's like, what the
I woke up this morning.
Rock and roll McDonald's.
Well, we're almost done with this piece of shit. And now it's time to see how he bastardizes my favorite Pink Floyd songs of all time, Roger Waters' Brain Damage and Roger Waters' Eclipse.
Yep. I'll go.
Evan, you go first.
I really don't have that much to say. I mean, you may have forgotten this. On the original album, he does not sing until this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Roger Waters is just playing his bass, and he does a great job at that on the original album. But then you get to this song, and maybe that's what makes it less interesting to me. One, because at this point in the listening experience, you're just
You're checked out. Yeah.
So him just sort of singing Brain Damage and Eclipse normally, it's better than the alternative.
I guess I'll have like a narration with nothing else.
Yeah, imagine him being like, and I was on the grass,
I was the lunatic. He was me.
and they took the blade, and they made the change.
I think like, first of all, the lunatic is in my ears currently.
That's the tagline for this album.
The lunatic's in my head. Oh, no, it's in my ears, let me tell you.
I tell you. The background. This is where the background singers, my fucking enjoyment of them, absolute. Not that,
Oh my god, yeah.
Not that it was really like my enjoyment of them was really high in general, but this is where it absolutely fucking
yeah,
nosedived.
it's the most egregious by far.
In a weird upside, this is the highest in Roger's range that we hear on the album.
It's a little different. Mm-hmm.
But I still don't really want to return to it. Like, it's not engaging to me even remotely. And the backing vocals, I will say again, they sound so robotic and like way too present. Kind of sounds like Andrew Huang, which like I don't really want that on a Pink Floyd adjacent project. Like there are like, when did this come out again?
23.
It wasn't really when AI kind of like.
Oh, AI was present at this point.
It
for
was, yeah. At the height of its capabilities, though, like.
Well, it's still growing, so I mean, no, probably not at the height, but it was definitely very present.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know.
To where, if the point you're trying to make is the background vocals sound like AI, yes, I agree with you.
It's just like I don't know. Like the background vocals sound as weird as like when they restored John Lennon's vocals for Now and Then, and it's just strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know.
It sounds like almost gimmicky in a way,
Yeah.
which is like really fucking weird. I mean, my big issue with the song is the pacing. Like, it's too fucking slow for a closer, and like unless that's Roger's point to like subvert expectations, because like it's something different. It's my version, which I don't fucking want your version. It just like makes my skin crawl, because like I don't want to keep comparing, but just like the ending is such this like explosive, like bombastic, like triumphant ending. In terms
On the
of, like,
original,
musically, yeah.
Yes.
But then this is just like it's there's no pulse to it. It's just like dead in the water. Like Roger Waters' vocal delivery is like really like inconsistent this time. Like on this song specifically, it's very sporadic and like weird. And like there's like the keys are like pretty decent on this one. They're like nowhere near the original, but like, at least they have like some energy to it. But it's just like
Do they
it's such
though?
like in comparison
To the rest of it, yeah.
Like Eclipse is like the only song that has like some semblance of speed on this entire album.
Which is funny. I'll just spoil my note for that. All I wrote for Eclipse was so sleepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, was he laughing? Or
Yes.
was it that weird inhale thing that he used to do?
Oh, the scream.
The scream, but like, because here's why I'm asking, because in my notes that's what I had, because if he's laughing, he sounds so frail. Like, it made me low-key feel bad. It's like, damn, this dude is old and he still thinks he's got chops. Like, that's rough. Hearing Roger sing the line "The lunatic is in my head" is so silly.
Oh yeah.
At his age,
You're
It
right.
is-
He is.
it is so silly. Like, it just comes off as going back to the Eddie and the 14-year-old lyrics. It felt like that.
Yeah.
Like, and I know like he's obviously just doing the song and he's singing the lyrics and whatever. It just feels wrong. I don't know why. And
I guess like with this tone of like instrumentation, that might also add a factor to
yeah,
it.
yeah, I think so. And for Eclipse, I didn't really write anything except what else can I say at this
Yeah,
point?
it's
I
same
mean,
old, same old.
Yeah.
It's a very bullshit track. The only thing I wrote for Eclipse was this just sounds like Stranger Things music. That's about it.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say to Ben's point?
About the lunatic is in my head.
Yeah, like I mean, he was in his late 20s when he originally sang that, and it sounds so genuine and
Yeah.
like not really. It's not a cry for help, but just in this like awareness, especially after what they saw happen with Sid. Like, oh, this thing could be lurking, and
Yeah.
that song
Right.
comes out of this like this fear of a loss of control and like a loss of yourself, and it's very powerful. And yeah, once you get to that age, it's like
It's hard to have that same like charm or like appeal.
And it's funny that
or
you
honesty.
You
Yeah.
brought up the point of when he sang it in his 20s, you have that sense of like loss of control with yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is ironic with him at this age, where that's all he fucking wants is control.
And he can't do it naturally.
Right. And it's just, it's like the joke is writing itself at this point.
Yeah. And like, I didn't know where else to bring this up. If you listen to Waters talk now, because he will talk, like for lack of a better comparison, he comes across like a brick wall. Like I can't imagine really having a conversation with him. Like I don't really know much about Gilmore, but Gilmore seems like he'd
like
be
a cool dude.
a pleasant time. And I
Yeah.
don't know really the ins and outs of that situation. And you know what? Fuck you, Roger. Gilmore's solo stuff is good.
Phenomenal.
I like a lot of Gilmore stuff because he also understands that Pink Floyd was a blues rock band.
Yeah.
And there's parts in Roger's solo work where that comes up, including pros and cons of hitchhiking, but that's really the fact that he had the smarts to be like, hey, Clapton.
Yeah, help me out here.
Yeah, which is probably the highlight of that album. But yeah, he just there's not enough humility on this. Like, if he wanted this project to come across the way that he was talking it up,
He failed.
he failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drastically.
And I guess that'll segue us perfectly into our final thoughts.
Well, the very last thing I had was just when I thought the album was over, I took a huge deep breath and I was like, okay, I listened to the album. And then all I fucking hear is, I'll tell you one thing, Jerry. And I thought, God fucking damn it.
Not again.
I was like, you gotta be shitting me right now.
Yeah. Hey, fake out endings.
Yeah.
Another commonality between these two albums.
Yeah.
But anyway, that will bring us to our final thoughts. Ben, what did you think of Roger Waters' Dark Side of the Moon Redux?
We talked about this a bit when we were first starting to talk about this album, in the fact that a lot of the instrumentals here and some of the soundscape ideas going on would be great on its own, but when you take in the fact that you slap Dark Side of the Moon on this, you can't help but to compare. And that's really hard. Kind of going back to your guys' episode when you did The Wall by the Nostalgia Critic, I remember the one thing you guys said was, we're trying to critique the music just as the music, but it's really hard to do that when you have to compare it. And that's exactly how I feel about this album. I don't know if this is egregious to say. This and The Wall by the Nostalgia Critic are on the same playing field.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which is crazy to say, because I remember when the Nostalgia Critic The Wall came out, and I was like, this is garbage just from the bits I heard. This is on the same level. It's doing a disservice to the original album way more than any other artist I've heard that do like a redux or like a re-record. The fact that it stayed stagnant and consistent with one vibe the whole time and did not change, or did not change drastically enough to keep my attention, is just, it fell flat. It just didn't do anything to boost my love for this album. If anything, it takes it away.
But it's such a love letter to Dark Side of the Moon.
This album was also sponsored by Honey.
I was imagining like Roger Waters doing the thing that Doug Walker does in like the ad where he's like,
the instrumentals were fine at best. You know, they were good on their own, fine at best in comparison. Roger's vocals are horrendous. The background vocals are way too processed, and it just feels like a cover album from someone's dad who wanted to be in Pink Floyd.
Exactly.
I gotta give it a 2 out of 10, which feels high, and I'm gonna give it a D minus, something like that.
I think that's very valid.
Yeah.
I do want to piggyback off your points. I'll say the opening of my final thoughts before we go back over to Evan. But if I had a nickel for every time we covered an artist who fundamentally misunderstood Pink Floyd albums, I'd have 2 nickels. Like,
Which isn't much.
but it's weird that it happened twice.
It's also weird that it was someone that
was
wrote
in the
the
fucking
fucking album. Yeah.
You know, I listened to this for the first time and I texted you immediately after. I was like, what the fuck was that? And you were like, oh yeah, his solo stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And now that I've checked that out, I don't know what it says about this album, but there's still 2 solo albums by him I'd put lower.
Yeah.
I feel a spite towards pros and cons. there's something about that just
I'm interested to talk to you about that.
rubs me the wrong way, man. And we can talk about that later. And then his, what is it? Is This the Life We Really Want? I didn't really gel with that either. And that's his also most recent.
Yeah.
The part that's weird to separate is the music on this, because there's a part of me that wants to rate this higher.
Yeah.
Because when I'm actively listening to it, it's still Dark Side.
Yes.
Like, there's something to be said about that, but that's not from this album. It's from an album from 1973.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think the worst part about this, and I think I was right initially to just not want to get into Waters' solo discography, because it's just, there are good moments. Again, Amused to Death was a huge surprise for me, but a lot of it is messy, and you see an ego of a guy who at one point I looked up to, and now, you know, unfortunately he's a human.
Yeah.
And everyone is, but he's a messier human
Than most.
And it's not like he's done anything directly bad. Again, back to Phil Spector, not that.
Yeah.
But like, just,
Oh shit, he's coming back to
No,
life.
not again.
but yeah, it's just disheartening 3 out of 10, D+.
Okay. Matt?
I imagine you're going to want to go last because you have a lot of thoughts. I don't know why my voice was given out there.
You're starting to sound
Roger
like
Waters.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Roger
Final
Waters.
thoughts.
Welcome to the Starlight Room.
Final thoughts. I like the final cut. None. You gonna give any? None.
I'm just going to read what I wrote. Roger, as a whole, is just so inflexible as a vocalist on this record, which makes sense for his age, but given the context you said about him sounding okay in the live versions, that makes me even more angry somehow. I feel like, and granted, he also could have just not have done a rehash at all. If he really felt like he needed to do the music a better service, he could have maybe like, I don't know, hired some people to sing it a little bit better and like get, I don't know, put some more oomph into it because his vocals are just not cutting it whatsoever. The production it's decent, all things considered, but it's just so lifeless in terms of the feeling, especially due to like the formulaic nature of each track's like song structure and instrument setup. It just plunges the pacing further than it should because a lot of these are really hard to tell apart. Like if you didn't have the lyrics there and maybe some of like the birds and the dog and the
car crash.
the car crash and the airplanes, like you probably wouldn't be able to tell a lot of these apart if you were just kind of like an average Pink Floyd listener, you know?
It was on in another room.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like the studio imagery, speaking of which, adds little to nothing in each track. Honestly, I found it really distracting from whatever the message and the music is about / should be doing. Gets absolutely thrown away with the half-hearted delivery that sounds like he's about 3 clicks away from his deathbed.
You guys are brutal. I mean, I get it, but like...
Oh, I didn't even get to the last.
Sorry.
I didn't even get to the final thing that I wrote here, which I'll still say it. If he wanted to do a rehash like of the album live, this would be one thing, which again, thank you for providing the context. But like if you want to do that live and like get experimental with it, that's one thing because he did contribute like to it creatively. But I find it selfish personally. He felt the need to redefine it, knowing it's with the full knowledge that it's grown to something bigger than himself and the rest of the band. Like, I don't know. I think at that point, while you did have creative like stake in the game with like making this album, fucking like get over it.
Yeah.
That is a definitive version. The rest of the band just created like what was it, like a better like mixed version?
It was like a remaster.
Like they didn't
Which-
redo the whole fucking thing.
I mean,
Like-
it was kind of a cash grab. Dark Side already sounded fine, but whatever.
Exactly.
I get it, but even so, it's like it didn't fucking.
It's not offensive.
It's
Yeah.
not a betrayal to the fans. So he should honestly just fucking like take that pill and swallow it and just fucking move on with his life. Like spite is not a good motivator for this. In terms of my ranking, D bordering F. I actually like D bordering F.
Valid.
I can see this getting lower. I need to figure this out. So my intention was to say, because I remember I went into double decimals.
That's right.
For the first time in my life. I meant to write 2.89 out of 10. I wrote 2.8.9 out of 10.
Oh, 2 out of 8 or 9 out of 10.
Which honestly, like, that feels fitting.
Yeah.
If I did want to do the...
That's crazy. You gave this a higher rating than Suicide Silence, but a lower ranking.
It's been a weird listening experience in
Yeah.
this period of time
It
that
just
I've
goes
had
to show you how
These albums
these
are not
albums
very good.
They
not good and
fucking
make you feel
suck.
very weird. Yeah.
so bad. Like, Jesus Christ.
But we'll probably not be listening to them anytime soon after this.
Or ever again,
I don't
I
think
hope,
I'll
for
listen to
myself.
that
Exactly. Fun discussions, at least.
But AJ,
What did you like, dislike about the album?
So this is surprise. Actually, an S tier album for me.
I don't know how else to say it, guys.
It's just more dark side. I love it. I love it.
The hypocrite is on the grass.
As I said, nickel analogy, of course. Roger Waters, he's always been up his own ass, but like this is just fucking ridiculous, man. I mean, like, again, using spite as like the prime motivator to release this album that has become bigger than you and that you will ever be is such like a dick move. And you just get a sense of this like arrogance that he just holds across the whole album that you just can't really grasp onto anything that he's saying because it just sounds so disingenuous, especially with like his opinions at the time during like the political climate. It's just like you just can't take anything he's saying seriously or like at face value because he's a hypocrite in terms, especially on Us and Them. And I think the most frustrating thing about this album is that as a concept, it can work, but he fails so hard at this. Like using Dark Side of the Moon to like reflect on your career with like one of the most famous bands of all time is interesting. And I think it could work separating Dark Side of the Moon and kind of like using that style to like go back through your career, look at all these themes that maybe were on Dark Side of the Moon from like a different lens with his own unique style. But using that just feels wrong and it's never going to live up to the original. So it's just such like a frustrating and upsetting listen.
Just to add to actually almost build on to that thought that you just had, I would have even been okay if he treated this album, set away Dark Side, and you treat these albums like as these are brand new songs, and maybe you take elements from Dark Side. That would have been really fucking cool. That would have been like oh shit, did you hear like the fucking money riff during this song?
Mm-hmm.
Like that would have been interesting. And
he doesn't do that.
He doesn't do that.
He
makes this album Dark Side.
Yeah, this is like, my Dark Side, the definitive Dark Side.
It's just the approach. I think that's what's more egregious is the approach.
It's overall. Insulting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have something to say, Matt?
I was just gonna say, like, even if he made a completely different album out of spite around the sales, like, still petty, but at the same time, it's not like insulting the fan base and the legacy of this album.
Well, I think the good thing, not to cut off the last year point, most people don't know this exists.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
like
God.
for
good reason.
Yeah,
but after this episode, everyone's going to know about it. So be careful how much we're promoting it,
all
guys.
7 billion people on Earth do listen to this podcast.
Listen. On Reddit, r/Azure Waters is going to be very upset.
Anyway, like there are pieces like on here that like using how like this melancholic outlook emphasized like by his instrumental style, like it really works, but just because you have the Pink Floyd like stigma attached to it, it just takes away completely. It makes you feel disrespectful and insulting. And like you guys said, like instrumentally, it's fine. It's never gonna hold a candle. It works for his style really well, but it's just boring as fuck. It's dead energy. It's just a pain to listen to. I think this and Suicide Silence have the same runtime. They feel like an hour and a half. It's fucking crazy. Roger Waters sucks as a vocalist. He's giving no energy. The ego comes out in his vocals where it's almost like a punishment that he's like forcing you to indulge, like you said, Evan. It's just not a good time. So honestly, you were correct. This is on the same plane as Nostalgic Courtesy of the Wall, so I'm giving it the same rating. It's an F tier. It's an awful album.
I respect it because it's honestly, me even giving it a D feels a little generous. That's why I said like bordering F. Mm-hmm. Like I can see it getting lower, but we'll see in a few weeks.
Exactly,
you know?
for our season 3 ranking.
What a fucking mountain of albums that we have for this ranking.
Oh boy, this is gonna I think our most like unique season in terms of album ranking, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, here's to better albums in season 4.
But anyway.
What an episode, guys.
What a fucking episode.
I'm welcome.
Yeah. What can I say? What a great theme.
Yeah, honestly,
this was
fun.
like this was just a different approach because the first 2 episodes we were on, we picked albums that we each liked. I feel like
both loved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Both loved. So this is the first time, like, you know, I think this was cool. This was a different approach to it. Which
aside from
I enjoyed it.
The palpable frustration that is like lingering.
Oh yeah, the tension.
Yeah,
I literally have a headache. I'm not kidding. Like
it's hard to get through.
It's
man.
hard.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah, we are done. But it was a worthwhile discussion for sure.
And thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you guys.
Oh my God. Thank you guys for letting us rant about these 2 albums.
Of course, it's your rite of passage for passing the torch to us. But anything you guys want to plug, want to say before we close out?
Obsolescence is still doing music. Go check us out. We're better than Suicide Silence, a self-titled album. I can
and that's an objective fact.
So yeah, we have shows, and follow us at obsl.pa.
I'd like to randomly plug Gio Gotti
by Boards of Canada.
Boards of Canada.
Yeah.
It's a good album.
Why not?
There you
right.
go.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Listen to Obsolescence, listen to Gio Gotti,
Hell yeah.
and listen to Ben and Evan's other episodes.
They're very fun.
Yeah.
We have a bunch unreleased that we're gonna release right now, guys. Go check it out.
gets 1 million views
We're gonna release the rest of them.
tonight, it's gonna come back.
We're gonna come in. Yeah, we're gonna come on back. I mean, we're gonna come back.
Well, this has been another exciting episode of the Family Album. As always, I'm your host, Adrian Tenari.
I'm Matt Glass.
I'm Ben Mascioli.
And I'm Evan Vandenbrul.
We will see you next week. Thank you for your constant love and support, and have a good night.
Peace.
Bye-bye.